We'll find out. But Brian Cook, great story. So if we catch up with him, Brian Cook is our guest. Brian, we'll start off with this, man. How's this week gone for you? I know it's kind of been crazy in a whirlwind, but how's it been for your first experience at the Super Bowl?
It's been amazing. I'm seeing a lot of guys come together for a common goal, and then at the pinnacle we're at in our profession. I think it's beautiful to see. Especially with me being a rookie and everything. It's my first experience for everything, so I'm just trying to soak everything up. Be a sponge, learn, and grow. Honestly, so it's a beautiful thing for sure.
I know that you'll have more time to reflect and sit back and think about what this season was like for you once this week is over and this game is over. But have you thought about what life was like a year ago at this time when you were going through shoulder surgery and not knowing like where you would be or what draft pick, and now a year later, you're in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's been a long year. Not gonna lie to you. I think it was probably 3 weeks ago, maybe. I'm in we had roommates during the week, so I'm in there talking to Trent, and we looking at the fact that it was like January 1st, and I paused for a second. I'm like, dog, I just played last year on the same day. I'm like, this is wild. But I think just the path, the journey it took, the finding the ins and outs of everything, learning, growing, developing as a young guy. I think that's a big part of the process that it took to get here. But as far as the surgery-wise and anything else, like, I got some great guys that I trained with, down in Austin, Texas. So, down at ROI. So, it was just, a situation where they get back on my feet, put my shoulder back together, and I was able to play. So, honestly, though, I'm just saying that each and every day I was with my head down, just grinding, because I didn't know what was in store for me. To be honest, at the time, I was still figuring out the surgery part. So,
Yeah, and then you end up with the Chiefs. Look, you're an incredibly confident guy. You play that way on the field. That much is obvious. But do you ever sit back and think, like, wow, I'm in this spot that a few years ago I was at Howard playing cornerback, and now I'm a safety in the NFL, man.
Yeah,
all the time you do. That's awesome, man. So all the time you sit back and reflect about, look where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I got as the season go on, going longer. I think I started to reflect more. But yeah, man, it's like I said, it's honestly beautiful. And then when you look at it, I was blessed to have the same number from college, freshman year of college to now. And I think
nice.
That's, you feel me? Those are small things where I'm that's beautiful. So this the whole journey as a whole, learning things I've learned, being what I had to go through. It all helped me for this moment. So I'm definitely appreciative about the journey I took and the path I walked on. It's definitely a beautiful thing to reflect on and to see. My mom reminds me all the time, like, son, you. I'm like, yeah, Mom, I know. Yeah, I know, Mom, I know. But it's a beautiful thing, to be honest with you.
Amazing. Brian Cook is our guest. Okay, so the Eagles coming up this week, and you guys are preparing game plan. What kind of stress does that offense put on the secondary? You guys, cornerbacks, with what they can do with the RPOs, the zone reads, the running quarterback, those receivers. What kind of stress does it put on the safety group that you guys are going to be out there on Sunday?
It's the same stress that we've seen these teams beat other teams with. You know what I'm saying? I understand why the weapons. I understand how to use them. It's very effective. You know what I'm saying? As a football fan, I'm like, this is a great offense. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great team as a whole. So I think just focus on what we have, focus on do what we have to do. And stay committed to the task at hand. It's the main part for us. But I give credit where credit's due. That's definitely a phenomenal team. I'm a fan of anybody at this level. This is the level that many people dream of playing in. And then now we're at the top of the top with the next team who's competing. So I can't give nothing but my utmost respect for the team. They're phenomenal at what they do. They have a nice balance as far as run, the pass, the play action, the RPO. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan for sure.
Awesome. Brian Cook, rookie safety. No longer a rookie. We've heard Justin Reed say that a number of times. Congratulations being in the Super Bowl. Best of luck in it. Try to enjoy it while also going out there and getting a W on Sunday. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate
it. It's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's Brian Cook. Great stuff, man. How about that? All the time, I sit back and think, like, I was at Howard a few years ago playing cornerback. Now I'm a safety in the NFL. And he said he and Trent McDuffie on, January 1st, like, I was playing a football game last year in college at this time. Now I'm getting ready for the playoffs, and he's now in the Super Bowl. And he's a big part of it, man. When guys go down, when Willie Gay went down and L'Jarius Sneed went down in that Bengals game, Brian Cook played a lot. He played a big role in that game, and he's just part of the Fab Five, those secondary pieces that have come in with the Chiefs throwing numbers at it. And look, I think Brian Cook's going to be a fan favorite moving forward, because we've talked about what the roster is going to look like next year, the year after that. That Juan Thornhill being a free agent after this year in the final year of his contract, that the expectation is that Brian Cook was drafted to take that spot, and he'll be a starting safety next to Justin Reed probably next year. And moving forward. So he's had a really good year, and it's nice to see him come along and become the player that he is, because there was a lot of excitement when they drafted him, people wondering, okay, what's he going to bring to the table? How good is he going to be? Safety in the second round, and he's been pretty good, and one of the guys that have stepped up and has grown throughout the year. So Brian Cook getting ready for the Eagles. And what kind of stress? Same stress any offense puts on us. Same stretch. He's got to be ready to go. It's an awesome offense, fan of the NFL. These guys have great weapons and playmakers. We just got to go out there and play our game. But the stress, same as it always is, any other team we play. So that's good stuff. Josh, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Jason, I'm great. Look,
Good.
Radio Row Week has a special kind of energy to it, and we're going to just continue to provide examples of that for the wonderful people of Kansas City. Just to, sometimes Brian Cook's on the phone, and that's where the show begins. It's a good way to kick things off. He's been excellent.
Yeah, typically we don't start off the show with an interview, but when they're like,
typically Brian Cook's not on the phone.
Exactly. Hey, Brian Cook's on the phone. Do you want to talk with him? Like Bryan Cook for
right.
the Chiefs, number 6. How about that? He's had the same number since his freshman year in college at Howard and Cincinnati, and with the Chiefs, number 6. So
I even think you got something out of him there from the pleasantries at the end when he says, "Look, man, I mean, you can hear the energy there of this is a blessing. This is a good time. We are feeling the moment here in a really big way, and also locked in, dialed in for the Eagles." Like, that to me, we've talked about it already this week. You talked about it a bunch yesterday, but that's a good energy that this team seems to have right now. The mix of new and old in the Super Bowl for the first time, or for the third time, or for the second.
Which, by the way, is one of the things that I had on the list of things that we may talk about this week. And since that, was brought up, I think it's a transition that we can make right now. Looking at, like, I know that Pro Football Talk has their awards, and Sports Illustrated has, their awards and things like that. But all these different websites and different organizations that present awards, have you seen Brett Veach's name mentioned anywhere with Executive of the Year?
I haven't seen many Chiefs mentioned with many of these awards, which is hilarious to me.
Because Howie Roseman has taken home all the awards of Executive of the Year. Sports Illustrated, Pro Football Talk, I'm assuming Pro Football Writers, I'm assuming it's going to be Sporting News, since sometimes there's a lot of groupthink. So when 1, 2, 3 different publications have the same, a person, player, executive, coach as their, whatever their role is of the year, it's typically going to follow suit with the others. So I'm expecting that Howie Roseman is going to be the one that continues. But even if it's like, I hate to be the Chiefs didn't win something, so now it's a problem and you're mad about that. No, here's what I would say to that. This is just Sports Illustrated and all the different people they have that voted. Executive of the Year, Howie Roseman got 15 votes. Runner-up, John Schneider of the Seahawks got 13 votes. 49ers, John Lynch got 6. Brandon Beane of the Bills got 1. Joe Douglas of the Jets got 1. Brad Holmes of the Lions got 1. I just, again, it makes no sense to me, because even if you say, well, yeah, they were expected to be pretty good, then Brandon Beane, then John Lynch, you know what I mean? The Eagles weren't expected to be awful. And yes, they made some moves that they go and trade for Robert Quinn, right? They trade for A.J. Brown at the draft. But even if you say they traded for A.J. Brown, the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs have the most expensive quarterback that has ever participated in the Super Bowl. Participated.
Right.
Not just won, They have the most expensive quarterback. The highest cap hit for any quarterback to make the Super Bowl was $25 million before Patrick Mahomes' $36.8 million this year. The highest percentage was around 12%, 14%. Let me look up the exact number as I pull up my computer here. The highest percentage of 14.9% was the highest percentage of a salary cap for any quarterback to play in a Super Bowl, and that was Matt Ryan in 2016, and they had a 28-3 lead. Patrick Mahomes is at 17.2%. So they are in the Super Bowl with literally the most expensive quarterback that has ever participated for a team in a salary-capped league, with a bunch of younger guys and rookies that made plays and had to step up in that game against the Bengals, and nowhere to be found, even a vote. Nary a vote. That's 15, 28, 34, 35. That's 37 votes. He couldn't find one out of 37 votes. It's amazing, and I think even in Kansas City sometimes he gets taken for granted because of the Breland Speaks and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Those were mistakes.
Never on the ground.
That's true. Breland Speaks is never on the ground, unlike Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, yes, not everybody is perfect, but I think when you are trying to get out of cap hell and win a Super Bowl, which is what he was doing at the beginning of his time, while also then having to restructure, reorganize, keep the window open in a salary cap league with an expensive quarterback to try to then turn the page to the next era of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid football and a roster, and you're back in the Super Bowl again with guys you brought in this year that are making plays. MVS. Remember, Tyreek Hill was traded. They signed MVS immediately. He had that game against the Bengals. The rookies that they got because they had the draft picks, not just specifically the draft picks, Josh, that they got for Tyreek Hill, but having the amount of draft picks you throw in with Tyreek Hill allows them to move around the board, allows them to say, let's go up and get Trent McDuffie because we already have another draft pick here at number 30. So we can trade 29 and our third rounder to go up and get Trent McDuffie now. You know, we can trade back with Sky Moore on that 50th pick that they got from Miami and get an extra fifth rounder. Now, that ended up being Darian Kennard. Maybe it'll work out down the line. But all of those things he did from one year to the next, and yes, the Chiefs were one of the betting favorites. That is absolutely true. But there were a lot of doubts as to how good they would be and if they could get to this spot, and they did. And it's just interesting that, you know, nary a look. Like, even just one vote of, like, you know what, I think it's Brett Veach. No, it's Brad Holmes of the Lions and Joe Douglas of the Jets and Brandon Beane and John Lynch. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know. Even if he doesn't win it, like a vote or two would have made sense. But, you know, it probably just comes off as sour grapes, I guess. But
no, I don't. I think people are driving around right now nodding along to what you're saying, and you're going to have to let me get to the second leg of this because on one leg, I think it's going to be really, really hard for Brett Veach or Andy Reid to ever get executive and coach of the year respect because now at this point they've been doing it for a while, and specifically, it's really hard to win those awards when you have the best quarterback in football. However, one of the ways you could do that is by making a blockbuster trade that ends up putting your franchise on a track back to a Super Bowl as you've rebuilt your foundation, doing it all while paying that quarterback as you just laid out. So I think all the arguments you just made are incredibly good ones, and I do think there are people this week giving Brett Veach his flowers for this draft class and some of the things they've accomplished in these last few years. And yeah, look, I mean, there are a couple of things on his resume that I'm deeply unhappy about even to this day, and even I can look at those as the outliers at this point for the job that he and the rest of this front office have done. Rebuilding the foundation of this team. Like, I guess you could say that's just Mahomes, but then the second level up is all these dudes on rookie contracts. Let's this roster exist in the way that it does now.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. And another segment here. We're going to talk with Sean Merriman later on this hour. And then we'll hang out with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. We'll talk with her, Dick Vermeil, Aaron Taylor, Mike Golic, Kurt Warner, Kenny Mayne, and, of course, Mick Schaefer will join us throughout the show today. And we'll hear from some other Chiefs that we talked with at opening night, some of those interviews that are still there that I want to hear from. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Sony Michel signing with the Chargers after being released by the Dolphins. Vizio Michel is heading to the Raiders.
Good. You deserve that.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out here at Radio Row in Phoenix. We'll continue throughout the week. Our coverage presented by Twin Peaks, Rally House, Blue Note Bourbon, and Dream Lawn. Rally House, your home for officially licensed NFL gear. Your city, your house. Rally House. Do want to pass along injury updates, and the good news is that there aren't any injury updates. Andy Reid said about an hour ago at the Chiefs availability that the plan is for all Chiefs players on the roster to practice today. This a more intense practice, a Wednesday practice, but the plan is for all the players on the roster to practice, and said that Patrick Mahomes is his ankle. He's moving around fine. Says that he's able to handle everything, or says he can really do everything. Well, at least what we have in the game plan he can do. So there you go. So Patrick Mahomes' ankle moving around fine. The Chiefs are all practicing today. That's Juju Smith-Schuster, it's Kadarius Toney, it's Willie Gay, it's L'Jarius Sneed. We know he was cleared from concussion protocol, and because McCole Hardman was placed on the IR, he does not count as somebody on the active roster. That would be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's practicing as well. So wanted to pass that along just as a note for some actual news stuff that's going on. So 913-912-4810. 913-912-4810 says, are you going to get Solomon Wilcots on the show? Some more of those.
That wasn't a no.
I mean, I've seen him. Tex says, Cook has impressive closing speed on the field. Was very impressed watching him against Cincinnati. Yeah, absolutely. And so he'll be a big part of it. The secondary will be a huge part of this game, and so will some the linebackers. I mean, everybody's going to be a huge part of the game, right? It's not like anybody's going to be like, this guy doesn't matter. But tackling, if I had a little bit more time with Brian Cook, I did want to ask him about, just the emphasis on tackling that, you guys tackled so well at the end of the season and against Cincinnati that, you talked about it, but then going out and doing it is different. And they're going to have to do that against Jalen Hurts, against the Philadelphia Eagles as well. Do you get the sense, Josh, and we'll go to break because I see Sean Merriman walking around here, so he's going to join us, in a little bit. Do you get the sense that the conversation is growing that, well, the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes and the Eagles have everything else? The Eagles 2 through 53. I mean, it's ridiculous how much better than the Chiefs they are. But number one, Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts.
I had a tweet written up earlier this morning that I didn't end up hitting send on because things started happening around Radio Row, just saying that I find it curious that it has basically been accepted at this point that the Eagles are the better team and the Chiefs have the better quarterback. And I'm a little surprised that we got there essentially as of Monday. Like, that was sort of already the takeaway from people who know what they're talking about. Yeah. And I'm not sure I'm willing to let it be quite that unanimous. And also that quarterback, as you and Solomon did talk about last year, does matter.
Is that what happened? Was that the conversation Solomon and I had? Was that about quarterbacks? I don't remember. I'd have to remember. Somebody needs to refresh my memory on that one. So I just why I don't remember? Lacking emotional intelligence. So if I had more of that, I'd be able to remember. But I black out some of these things. I block out some of these things in my mind because there's no intelligence emotionally to be able to do that. All right, we need to take a break. We'll do that. We'll come back. And we will talk with Sean Merriman, the linebacker / defensive end for the Chargers and Bills. And he is hanging out here. And we'll talk with him about this matchup this weekend and his time playing against the Chiefs. We will talk with Sean Merriman coming up next as we are hanging out at Radio Row in Phoenix. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Took Jason an hour and 40 minutes to find the stats, 2.5 hours to tell the story.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you heading up until 2 o'clock. We hang out here on Radio Row in Phoenix getting ready for Super Bowl 57. Joining us now is Sean Merriman, former Charger and Bill and NFL player, a couple-time Pro Bowler. Led the league in sacks as well. Sean, man, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us and sitting down with us and hanging out here at the Super Bowl. Looking forward to our conversations. We talked with you last year as well. So good stuff, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man. You know, it's kind of crazy coming here, and I've been coming for years, but you start to see some of the people, like I was 20 years old when I got drafted, right? So you see some of the people in media, and I'm like, okay, damn, I'm old now, right? You see some of these young guys to come on Radio Row, but it's fun to see everybody under kind of the same roof and talk about the big game.
You don't look old.
No, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You look like you probably go out there and, you know what, I can give you 2 series.
That's
I can give you 2 series,
no,
Coach.
You know, I can play a whole game. I just can't recover. That's it.
All right, I can give you 1 game.
I give you 1 game.
They need to sign you for Sunday. You're good.
That's it.
You're good to go. I'll put some pressure on the quarterback, man. I'll get there.
You know it.
It's what he's known for. Also now with Lights Out Extreme Fighting that's going on. How long have you been doing this? What, 4 years now?
Yeah. So I started actually training after my rookie year. I just wanted to get better with my hand-eye coordination. As outside linebacker and pass rusher, I figured I had to use my hands more, and MMA was a way to do it. I started training with actually Jay Glazer and Randy Couture. It was my first day walking into the MMA gym. So fast forward, I was training every single offseason. I eventually got a lot better with my hands, and I launched Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2018. We're on Fubo Sports, on Fubo TV now. We just had a big event on the 15th of January. We broke into the top 10 most watched ever on Fubo Sports.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool for us. We got a big fight coming up in April in Los Angeles. So I'll be announcing that card, announcing that venue and date next week. So it's fun, man, to kind of you talk to anybody that leave the locker room, leave the game of football, the first thing they'll say, I miss the guys. I miss being in the locker room, that competitiveness, guys going back and forth, and you just miss the camaraderie of being around guys. So I get an opportunity to go and train with some of these fighters, which is, why I try to keep myself together. But I love being around the sport, and more so, making sure that the product is good so people watch and like it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're a player that decides to go out on your own terms, that Tom Brady announces his retirement the other day, that it's he's been playing since 1930, so he decides that he's finally done. He's finally done. He announced it on his own terms. Still emotional, but so many of the guys in the NFL don't get to choose their retirement. It's typically chosen for them. And when that happens, then you probably have maybe even that itch a little bit more, that I wasn't ready to stop being around the guys. I wasn't ready to be done with this what I've known my entire life with athletics and training and workouts, and now just like going to a day job, like not ready for that.
Yeah, because there's those no time periods. Somebody else chooses your time, right? Yeah. They normally have a little guy to come up and ask for your playbook, or you get a call up to the owner and saying, hey, look, we love you, but this is a business and we got to move on. So you don't get that opportunity, and that's why it's been even funner for me on that standpoint. We have former guys who career got cut short, because I did, playing 8 years, and some of these guys looking and saying, you know what, I'm physically ready to go. I want to compete. So we've been transitioning a lot of these former athletes into Lights Out Extreme Fighting.
Very cool. Sean Merriman is our guest. One of the things that sticks out with me from your career is the draft in 2005. And it was nothing against you, because looking back, I would have, certainly would have been fine if the Chiefs drafted you. But I really wanted Derek Johnson out of Texas. And when the Chargers selected you, I was so happy. I was like, okay, they didn't take Derek Johnson. And so the Chiefs end up getting Derek Johnson. I didn't know that you were going to be a menace. I wouldn't have been as excited that the Chargers drafted you had I known what the next few years were going to be like. The Chiefs going up against you. I was excited for Derek Johnson. I was just unaware of what the career was going to be for Sean Merriman.
Well, what's funny about that, Dick Vermeil, right?
Yeah.
Who was he a coach?
He was the head coach.
He was the head coach.
Yep.
He was one of the only head coaches that came to my workout at University of Maryland.
Wow.
And we talked for a long period of time, and he was there, and he said, Sean, look, if you're there, we're taking you. And that's the same thing that Jerry Jones and Bill Parcells and some of these other coaches said. And I was like, yeah. All the coaches told me that. But he was the only head coach that was there, and I got a chance to spend a lot of time with him. I love Dick Vermeil to death. Yeah. And so it was a big possibility that I was going to be a Chief at one point. If I slid past that 12th pick from the Chargers, I was. And Coach Vermeil told me, he said, we want you here. But I think that you guys got a great player in Derek Johnson because he was so reliable all over the field. And I think for the team need, what you guys were looking for at that period of time, I think he might have been the better choice. But it almost happened. So,
and that was Dick Vermeil's last year.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm assuming because he couldn't draft you, he decided to hang it up.
Yeah.
I'm done. Wanted Sean, didn't get him, so I guess I'm done coaching. So maybe that's what.
That's what I'm gonna tell people from now on, at least anyway, when they talk about the great Dick Vermeil.
That's right. Sean Merriman is our guest, former NFL player, and now with Lights Out Extreme Fighting, that he's got that going on as well. What do you see with these two teams, man? The offenses are really good. That these defenses are going to try to slow down. Different ways that the defense is going to try to attack the opposing quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, look, I made a terrible decision and mistake by going against Patrick Mahomes last week. I mean, okay. For anyone who – we all know what ankle injury he had and how bad it was, but just to put a little bit more emphasis on how bad it was, I mean, even a mild high ankle sprain is 2 weeks. A mild one. And I'm talking about the easiest one that's not that critical, not that devastating, is 2 weeks. You're walking in a walking boot all week, and you hope to make it that second week. So I picked against him just for that reason. I didn't think that he was going to be mobile. I thought they were going to have to keep him in a pocket and protect him. I thought that the Bengals were going to get him off of the spot and get what he did, not only with the bum ankle, but also the offensive guys the wide receivers going out. Icing the game at the end, using his legs.
Yeah.
I was wrong. Yeah, and I don't say that too often. And we all know how great Patrick Mahomes is, and he'll go down as one of the greatest that ever do it. But the only difference is he's not playing against the best team in football. Mm-hmm. That's where it's a little bit different. Nothing against Eli Apple, but they don't have an Eli Apple in that defense for Philly.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of weak spots. They have a rotating D-line crew that's coming in fresh off the bench. They never get tired, and the guy that's coming off the bench is just as good as the guy that's starting. I think they have the best two tandem cornerbacks in football, that defensive back core back there. And so I'm not even concerned about Patrick Mahomes' ankle anymore. It's just that does he have enough weapons to not only get through that D-line, but also deal with that secondary once that happens.
On the flip side, stopping a guy like Jalen Hurts, Frank Clark and the defensive ends have talked about that, they're going to be the ones that are going to be put into the decision. And Frank Clark talked about, he was at Michigan when Jim Tressel at Ohio State was sort of doing this thing. So he's like, look, there's a lot of college elements. I played college ball against it, so I have a pretty good idea. But as a defensive end, like that's got to be one of those. You got to be disciplined. You got to play your game. But there also might be an annoyance to it because can you just simply say, I want to get after the quarterback here, that you don't know what that play is going to be? Are you going to be the one that they play off of? And is that quarterback just going to step up and then run around and pick up 30 yards?
Yeah, Frank Clark is one of my favorite guys I love to watch. And when he turns it on and want to get after you on the pass rushing side, he will. The problem is you have to get them in pass rushing situations before you can go pin your ears back. That's going to be the question. Mm-hmm. If the Chiefs can get up 7-0, 10-0, something. If that happens, Chris Jones, Frank Clark will have a field day because now they know Jalen Hurts has to throw the ball. If that game remains close as a pass rusher, you always have to be a little timid when you're rushing the passer for that reason because you don't know. You can't pin your ears back and go. So it's going to be a chess match early on. Who I think whatever team starts to break away a little bit is the ones that are going to probably win the game. Mm-hmm. I don't see this, like my Chargers going against the Jags up 27-0 and somebody, it's not going. They're too good.
Right. Yeah.
The first team that starts to break away in that early in that second half is probably going to be the team to win the ball game.
Sean Merriman is our guest. Did that one clearly hurt with the Jags coming back against your Chargers?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. I mean, just being a former Charger and also knowing still working with the organization, being a part of it, knowing that those guys really had an opportunity to go and play in the next round. coaching staff got fired and let go. I mean, it was a lot that happened from that loss. But, yeah, they'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
They will.
Sean Merriman is our guest. How the Chiefs last year lost in the AFC Championship game, and they return this year, get past that. How difficult is it to lose that particular game? And then the next year you want to then, reach the ultimate goal, but you got to do everything all over again that you did the year before just to get back to that spot. And it can be pretty mundane. It can be let's just get to the playoffs and fast forward, but you got to get there first. How difficult is it to lose that game and then come back the next year and get past that stage?
It's extremely difficult. Not only, physically, because now you have a shorter offseason.
Yeah.
Right? You're playing deeper into the playoffs, but mentally knowing that, guys, we were almost there. And that's a big blow, right? I've lost an AFC Championship game before. And I know during the offseason that just takes the wind out of you. And now you got to gear back up all over it again. And the only difference is this time when you got to gear up and do it all over again, you may not have the same team.
Yeah.
Your core guys could be gone. And so when I talk to some of these younger guys, I say, look, you got a short window. I would say 3 to 4 years. Where you all together, if you got a great team, get a ring or two then, because contracts is coming up, coaching staffs are coming up, people are coming in and out of the door. You have that 3 or 4 year window to go and get it done.
Sean Merriman is our guest, and that next year, you guys made it to the divisional round, I think, but it wasn't a great regular season. It was like 8-8, and if you look back at that New England game that you guys played, how many times do you think you beat that team out of 10, that Patriots team? Because you guys intercept Tom Brady 3 times, but the Chargers offense was so good, and just had an off day.
I think we beat them 9 out of 10 times.
Really?
Yeah, we really do. I think that in that situation, that they beat us for experience. They've been there. They approached it a little bit different. Start capitalizing on our mistakes. We had some penalties that it was a bunch of inexperienced things happening, and I felt like if we had an opportunity to do that again, being on that stage, we'd have been fine. The problem is, like I said before, your team starts to break up. I remember going to practice every day, and LaDainian Tomlinson is your starter. Michael Turner is your backup, and Darren Sproles is your third string.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Then, Michael Turner leaves, and Sproles. I mean, it's, I end up leaving. I'm going to the Bills. LT end up leaving and going to the Jets. And so when I talk to the younger guys, I say focus on those 3 or 4 years. The Legion of Boom up in Seattle, right? You got those 3 or 4 years. Take advantage of it.
Yep. Sean Merriman is our guest. One of the other things that Chiefs fans remember is the hit with Priest Holmes. I'm assuming you know that. Have you and Priest talked? I mean, it wasn't vicious. It was just a collision in the NFL that you guys met, and 2 strong guys. It's the NFL. Have you talked with Priest since then?
Priest was one of my favorite players growing up. So I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland. So watching Priest when he was with the Ravens, you couldn't tell me anything bad about Priest. And Coach, I'll tell you a crazy, crazy story about then. And this was, I was young, I was a rookie, and it was a legit big hit. It was just a big hit. And I'm up and I'm celebrating. I'm going crazy, yelling and screaming. I got on the sideline, and Coach Marty Schottenheimer, he grabs me by the face mask, and he says, "Sean, that was a great hit. But remember, this guy's family and friends are watching this game." And I went from here to here quick, and it put everything in perspective for me. And it was scary for me, too, because I've never seen that personally on anybody. He was asleep for 2 commercial breaks. And I got worried. But when he got up, I felt better about it. It was one of my favorite players growing up. He even laughed on the sideline when he found out a rookie had knocked him out. And I ran into him at the Playboy Mansion some years later. And I didn't know what to say. It was I think a Halloween party or something it was something event. It was at the Playboy Mansion, and I saw him and I came up to him. I mean, I love Priest Holmes to death, and I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. Sorry, or like.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Right. I didn't know if he was going to try to swing on me.
You want to punch me?
Right.
I mean, I have been training with the MMA, just so you know, Priest. I don't know what you're doing in your off time. But.
So it was but I seen him, and it was fine. We talked for a minute. We didn't talk about the hit. Really? We didn't talk about – I can't, for me, I couldn't bring that up. It was I was young and I was excited because it was a big play, but also too, he never really played again after that.
Yeah,
and that was tough.
Yep. Sean Merriman is our guest. All right, do you have a pick for the game? Who you think is going to win on Sunday?
I made a terrible decision of going against Patrick Mahomes last week, and I'm probably going to make another terrible decision this week. And so I have to pick the Philadelphia Eagles only because they're just too good all the way around. The only hesitation I have is because I seen what Patrick Mahomes did last week with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt, the back against the wall, didn't think he was even going to be able to do half the things he did. So you always have a shot with Patrick Mahomes. You always have just a little shot, no matter all things fail. But the Eagles are just too good right now. They're playing too high-level football to lose this game.
All right, we'll see what happens. Sean Merriman, former Charger, and Bill, lightsoutxf.com with the Lights Out Extreme Fighting event that's coming up in Los Angeles. Sean, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, man, and enjoy the week here and enjoy the game, and I'm looking forward to our conversation next year.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, there's Sean Merriman as we continue rolling here at Radio Row, our coverage as it has been yesterday and will continue today, tomorrow, and on into Friday, presented by Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, America's favorite sport, crowns a champ on February 12th. Show up early, cash out quarterly. The first 100 guests qualify for the Squares board. Watch the game at Twin Peaks. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Because there are more better, this is bad English, there are more better quarterbacks.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you as we continue rolling live from Radio Row in Phoenix, heading up to Super Bowl 57. Thank you to Sean Merriman. We'll talk with Dick Vermeil coming up later on this hour. Aaron Taylor, we're scheduled to talk with Kurt Warner at noon and continue breaking down this Super Bowl matchup. Right now, our analytics expert from NFL Network joining us here in the Zone. It is Cynthia Frelund on this Wednesday. Cynthia, how are you?
I'm great. I'm about getting ready to head to Phoenix. I'll be there tomorrow. You tell Kurt to warm up the city for me.
I will absolutely do that, and we'll see you around Radio Row tomorrow as you'll be down here. But looking forward to our conversation right now. Do you think this is the matchup of the best two teams in the NFL that we got on Sunday?
I mean, I think we did. I think when it was all said and done, I think we ended up getting the best two teams. Obviously, to me, the AFC in general is stronger top to bottom. So I think we've seen kind of the best run going through it. It's going to be hard, to be honest with you. It's kind of hard for me to not say maybe the Bengals and the Chiefs was the best matchup. But, that's kind of it's impossible. But of the possible permutations and combinations, I think we got the right one.
Last week when we talked to you, I asked you how the Chiefs get it done against the Bengals, and you said the pressure, the efficiency of the pressure that they put on Joe Burrow. Pressuring the quarterback is going to be a big deal on Sunday. Who can do it, who can't do it. Both of these offensive lines are pretty good. The Eagles get a lot of credit as being maybe the best offensive line in football. Certainly the Chiefs are good. Their strength coming from the interior. What do you think Spags can do, will do, and how likely is it that the Chiefs are able to put some pressure on Jalen Hurts with that really good offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to look a little different because obviously Jalen Hurts' mobility, and that is the best O-line in football. Now, I will say that some some quarterbacks like Patrick don't necessarily need the best one, so sometimes there's surplus value in that. But Jalen Hurts looks a little different, obviously, than a lot of quarterbacks we've seen from the fact that we haven't seen him actually go back to using quarterback scramble since he hurt his shoulder. So it's going to look a little different, right? So meaning I think in this one, it is the Super Bowl. They will pull out all the stops. I would imagine a more mobile Jalen Hurts, more like we saw at the beginning of the season when he was averaging 54.3 rushing yards per game, as opposed to what we've seen in the past month or so where it's been sub 40.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's – and also, one of the things that we noted a couple of weeks ago when just talking about different matchups is – Patrick Mahomes' ability to avoid sacks, and even with an injured ankle last week and against the Jags as well, that, the pressures to sacks, so the percentage of pressures that turn into a sack out of 40 qualifying quarterbacks with, I think, 20% of pass attempts or whatever the certain number was at PFF, Patrick Mahomes is number one at about 10% of pressures that turn into sacks. Jalen Hurts is 27th out of 40th in that. Why do you think that I think we have a pretty good idea of Mahomes, but Jalen Hurts, that I would guess that he would be ranked higher in terms of fewer pressures turning into sacks because of his ability to run and do some of those things. Why do you think his percentage is as high of 1 out of every 5 pressures results in a sack for Jalen Hurts?
Because when you watch there's a number of reasons, but one of the ones that stands out the most to me is that when you watch his running backs, and when a team does decide to blitz, those running backs are not as good at picking up the blitz. There is no – Jerick McKinnon maybe doesn't get enough credit. Maybe, he gets a good amount of credit there in the Super Bowl, but he's a much better blitz picker-upper than you imagine. Whereas you watch Miles Sanders and that's just not their strength. That's not how they make their money. That's not how they make their they're just not as good at that.
So do you think there will be a strategy from Spags to be blitzing a little bit more and try to get after Jalen Hurts?
If there's one thing I feel like it's set my clock to, it's Spags bringing the heat. I think they're going to try to just Because obviously, look, it's not like Steve Spagnuolo sitting there be like, you know what, I think all of a sudden our secondary is going to be different than it was all season long. I think that, they're going to say, look, Trent McDuffie looked amazing against, Jamar Chase, but let's talk about, he's still a rookie, and there's a lot of different looks that you could see, and A.J. Brown's different. He's very good, and they've got Devontae Smith. It's a different type of receiver. So, I think that they'll be like, let's bring the heat. That's what he's done since, my good friend Matthias Kiwanuka will tell you. He played for the Giants in their Super Bowl winning teams with Spags at their defensive coordinator. This is what they do. Spags will bring the heat.
Is this a better offense than the Bengals, including the injuries to the offensive line for Cincinnati? Not their healthiest, but what the Chiefs faced a couple of Sundays ago versus what they will face this Sunday. Is this an overall better offense than what the Chiefs went against in that Bengals matchup?
Kind of. I mean, their O-line is clearly much better, but I just feel like, though, I have to give Joe Burrow his credit, because Joe Burrow's up there amongst the league. That guy stands in the pocket, takes all the pressure, and still manages to make things happen. He's up there. That's like a special quarterback. And not to say that Jalen Hurts isn't special, but I just want to give Joe Burrow his credit where that credit is due, because the reality is when you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, it just feels a little different, even though Jalen Hurts has been awesome, and we've seen A.J. Brown score 7 deep touchdowns. He only had 5 total his entire run with the Titans. They clearly know how to make this team go. I just think that the Eagles, like Joe Burrow, I remember game 1 this season, they were in that big hole against the Steelers, and you never felt like the Bengals were out of it. In fact, they came almost all the way back, right? But the Eagles, they haven't faced adversity in over a month, so I don't know what happens if the Chiefs come out to a 14-point or 2-score lead by however you want to measure that. I think it's going to be a lot harder, because this team is not built to come from behind as easily as maybe the Chiefs or Joe Burrow. A guy someone who feels like that massive game changer in 1 or 2 plays, right? So to me, it's not again, they haven't faced that adversity. You could take it 2 ways. Either they haven't shown us their best stuff yet, they're saving it, or they haven't figured out the tempo that's going to be required, that what happens when you get going from behind, and that tempo is important. Like we saw it with the Bills. I don't mean tempo from running tempo. I mean figuring out what are our 3 or 4 get back in rhythm plays that get us those crucial first downs, and a situation where we just don't get clobbered.
Cynthia Frelund is our guest. It's an interesting point, because the Eagles typically a team that's going to want to pass early to maybe take the lead and use that running and to really just ice the game, because they're very good at that. But also, obviously really good at running even earlier in the game if they have to. And one of the things that I'm wondering is if the blitzes, which we talked about, and I think that's going to be the case, but putting those the cornerbacks for the Chiefs on an island of just saying, okay, Snead, you've got A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, or McDuffie, you've got whoever else is on this side, and we're going to man up and say, Jalen Hurts, can he beat us with his arm if we rush with discipline to keep him in the pocket, we stop the run, things like that, and make Jalen Hurts beat us, whether that be over the top or whatever it might be. As you watch Jalen Hurts since the injury, and even as recently as the 49ers game, is he playing the same? Does he look different? Is he more tentative? Is passing the ball as well as he was? Are you seeing a different, maybe a little compromised Jalen Hurts as opposed to when he was the leading candidate for the MVP?
I think it's a little more compromised. Here's the thing. Let's be honest. How many actual competitive snaps have they taken since Jalen Hurts' injury? Because remember, Week 18 against the Giants, not first line of players, right? It was. Yeah. I don't even know if I'd call them backups. It was a mishmash of people who were available for the Giants that weren't their starters, and then because they've got a bunch of injuries too, and then you saw, and they had a break. They had their first round bye, and then you saw them play the Giants again, and maybe that was competitive for 3 drives, maybe. And then they didn't have to show you anything. You could just run the football out. Okay. And then, obviously that San Francisco game, I got to give Devontae Smith credit for duping the sidelines and the league for that catch. But apart from that, he hasn't really been, the deep ball has not been there, but to be honest, he hasn't really needed the deep ball to be there, right? Yeah. He went 1 of 5 in that game on 20-plus, so deep receptions, 20-plus air yard passes. And that one was the Devontae Smith, asterisk, it wasn't a catch situation. So, sure, we can say that we haven't seen him. The deep ball has maybe changed or been compromised, but the reality is they haven't had to. So is that really the best play, or just throwing out something to be like, hey, just don't put it where the other guy can take it and see what happens? YOLO.
YOLO. Yeah, and I will say, though, one of the things that have bothered the Chiefs with Steve Spagnuolo as a defensive coordinator has been bigger receivers. Mike Williams, T. Higgins with the Bengals, and A.J. Brown when they played the Titans before. And that is certainly a concern if you're going to say, all right, we'll leave one of these guys out on an island with A.J. Brown. It's been the bigger receivers. Jamar Chase is a stud, and he's going to get his against really anybody, but it hasn't really been the guys like a Devontae Smith, who is, exceptional at what he does. The concern I would have for the Chiefs defense is, for whatever reason, those bigger-bodied receivers have always seemed to give the Chiefs secondary problems.
Yeah, I think part of it is that the way that defense is constructed is a bit more risk-taking. And so if you have a guy – all of the rules are really like – we call them 50-50 balls, right? But they're really not 50-50 balls because many of the rules are and by the way, it's the same when the Chiefs are on offense. But in general, what used to be 50-50 balls are more like, 65-35 balls in favor of the offense. So if you're going to take risks and you're not going to, you're going to change the way that the space works in the back end of the defense, you just have to acknowledge that that's a shortcoming, and you have to do something to make up for it. Like, you can't solve every problem, right? You can't, if you could solve every problem, then you would win every single game, right? But, the reality is you have to pick your poison. And I don't think that's, where they are focused on picking that poison, if, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And we'll see what that I would guess that Spagnuolo's poison is not to let the running game get them. I would guess that they're not going to run.
That's what I would guess too, because that run game is where if the Eagles can get going running, it's going to be really, really hard because the controlling the clock is difficult. And look, the area that's weak for the Eagles defense, and I say weak like weakest, not weak, like not a bad team, is going to be their linebackers and coverage, and also their safeties. And I'm going to say asterisk no C.J. Gardner-Johnson, because ultimately, if he sometimes plays star, sometimes he plays safety. So other than him, those other two safeties are the ones that are stay away. Stay away from, target those two, not him.
Visiting with Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Offensively for the Chiefs against the Eagles, and, on third down, they're more of a heavy zone team. I think they only run man-to-man on third down 30% of the time, but they do man-to-man throughout the game. And so zone, love the matchups with Travis Kelce just in general if they're playing zone, because I think Patrick Mahomes and Kelce have a really good idea of where the holes are in the zone, and even off script a little bit. But Travis Kelce has said before that their routes are not just a line on a paper, and Kurt Warner had a really good, and we're going to talk with him later on in the show, but he had a really good QB Confidential on YouTube about the Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes sort of freelancing a little bit and reading the defense while they're running the route, and both on the same page of well, that guy's there, now I'm going to adjust my route, and Mahomes seeing the same thing makes it more difficult in the zone. But one of the other things, Cynthia, is against man coverage and that pass rush from the Eagles. Andy Reid is one of the best screen game coaches in the NFL, and getting the ball to the running backs and Jerick McKinnon. Is McKinnon, in your mind, going to be do you expect him to be a bigger part of the game plan with screens, and whether it's check downs or just swing passes, or finding ways to get McKinnon out in open field to try to alleviate some of the pass rush from the Eagles?
Yeah, absolutely. I think McKinnon is the unsung hero, right? We have to pick X factors for this game, and I'm having a hard time picking between L'Jarius Sneed or McKinnon. I'm going to be for our show that's 8.5 hours long. We have to pick between the two, and I'm having a hard time just determining which one of those two, because X factors aren't Chris Jones, got it, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, you know what? He's pretty important, but we're talking about kind of low key. Maybe it doesn't even show up in the stat sheet, how the McKinnon role will be handled. Kind of how last game I would say like MVS was the low-key champ because we even saw like yards after the catch for him, which is not something that is typically always, like that hasn't been his game. So it's like, what's going to be the thing that steps up, right? Like, how does that work? And I think maybe it's probably pass pro or even just a little tiny chip. It sounds stupid, but a chip that slow down Fletcher Cox, just a half a second. Sounds very small, but those things really add up and make the largest difference. I mean, remember back to the Super Bowl with the Falcons and the Patriots, right? Like what happened there? A running back didn't pick up the blitz, and it was pretty impactful for that entire game.
Yeah, and you know what, against the San Francisco 49ers, McKinnon was a big part of that game and how they used him and faking a chip and then chipping, but actually it was a screen for McKinnon to pick up a big gain. They, hiding him in the backfield and having him sort of run across the line of scrimmage on a passing play looking like he's going to pick up a linebacker, but then he just runs right through the line of scrimmage and they throw him the ball. So that was attacking a really good pass rush. So I think Andy Reid will certainly have a game plan. Last couple for you, the schedule for the Eagles that they've played and the defenses or, quarterbacks they've gone up against and just overall teams they've gone up against. Is that a factor at all in your mind of how good this Eagles team is? Are they inflated by the schedule or not?
They're definitely inflated by the schedule. I'm not taking anything away from them, but this is a hard sport, meaning it's not like if you would have put the Chiefs in that schedule, what would have happened? If you would have put the Bengals in that schedule, what would have happened, right? So you get to play your schedule. You don't, or you have to play your schedule. Depends on which side of the coin you're on. But the reality is they still won those games, and they're still this healthy at this point. These are the things that are very hard to do in the league. So while I say their strength of schedule is nowhere near the like kind of gauntlet that the Chiefs or anyone else had to run, the reality is it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. So at the end of the day, you can say like, oh, it's a weaker schedule, et cetera, do I think they should be favored? I don't. But okay, that's just how it goes, right? So, I take nothing away from what the Eagles have accomplished. I think they're a great team, and the flexibility that they showed throughout the entire season to keep getting free agents, to keep shuffling the deck. Heck, even if you look back, like to get rid of Carson Wentz after signing him to a big deal, like all of those things kind of falling into place, it's a real testament to how they've put their team together and how the team is coached. And it's a really impressive run to get here. It's, there is absolutely, it is a hard thing to do to win this many games with a single elimination tournament. It is very hard to do for any team because the best team in the league and the worst team in the league aren't as far apart as they seem. So the reality is take nothing away from them, but they haven't had to play and they haven't had to show anything in over a month. Nothing. None of those Travis Kelce hook and lateral in the middle of the game. They haven't had to pull out any of the fancy stops, which I don't know if it's a positive or negative, but to me it feels like if they get down, it's a negative because they haven't had to work their way through it with some creativity in a long time.
Okay, who wins? Last one for you real quick. Who wins and if you have a score or margin of victory?
28-26, Kansas City Chiefs.
28-26, we got it. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. Cynthia, great stuff. Appreciate the time. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and that 8.5-hour coverage on Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm coming to give you a hug tomorrow, so be ready for it.
Absolutely, will do. There is Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson
Did he how did I miss that?
You were probably talking over him.
on Sports Radio 810.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock, and very excited and pleased to be joined by a man who's got a connection to both of these teams that are in the Super Bowl. Former Chiefs head coach, former Eagles head coach, Dick Vermeil, joining us here in the Zone. Dick, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. Thank you for the opportunity to say hello.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us. This is an interesting Super Bowl that it is not lacking for storylines and connections, and you being one of them. This is it's amazing how much it feels like these organizations have been connected with different coaches and players and those in the front office and the organization throughout the years. You don't often get that, but these two organizations have been there, and you've worked for both of them. So what do you think of this matchup of not even on the field, just the organizations matching up on Sunday?
Well, the two different organizations, both of them obviously very well run, organized, and with great coaching staff, great personnel departments, and now you have to play the game. But, of course, Andy Reid and the Chiefs have been there a number of times here in recent years, and all that experience is, I think, an advantage. And Nick Sirianni with his organization and how he's been there before, the general manager of the Eagles. So I think that, if you base it on experience, you've got to say that Andy Reid has an edge. But at the same time, if Nick Sirianni doesn't do the job he did with the great personnel that he has, they wouldn't be there. So it's going to come down to which team makes the big plays in the big game. Sometimes you get in there and you just don't get it done.
Dick Vermeil is our guest here on Sports Radio 810 at WHB, and Jeffrey Lurie, we talked with him at opening night on Monday night, and it was interesting, Dick, hearing him talk about Andy Reid, and he was asked about, being there in Miami in 2019 for that Super Bowl and being able to be present when Andy Reid won his first one, and he started getting choked up. He almost started crying, talking about what it meant to him for Andy Reid to finally win one. You're a guy who coached for a while and fell short in the Super Bowl, and then finally got to the top of the mountain with the Rams back in '99. What's that feeling like from years and years of grinding and working to get that ultimate goal? And Andy Reid finally 4 years ago, he's had a couple of other opportunities and one more, this year of winning it, but finally getting over that hump and winning that Super Bowl.
Well, first off, you learn to realize, having been there and lost, that it takes the same thing to get there and lose as it does to get there and win. So you better appreciate it. And Sunday, both of these teams this year did the same thing to get there. Now, the best team may not even win. It's not a series of best of seven. It's a series of best of one. One bad call, one fumble, one interception, anything like that could cost you the football game, and it's over. So I think the first thing is appreciate the fact that you got there, and then recognize the opportunity you have, and recognize, hey, you may not get another opportunity to be at your best. And if you get enough guys collectively having their best game on the same day, you're going to win it.
Dick Vermeil is our guest, and Andy Reid is known as an offensive guy. You certainly had some pretty good offenses in your day. These are two quarterbacks that kind of go about it differently, and Jalen Hurts offers that running ability and changes sort of the math on the defense when now you do have to worry about the legs of the quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes just seems to be someone that gets it done in different ways. He can run it a little bit, but really with his arm. As you see these two quarterbacks, how nice would it have been maybe for you to incorporate their skills in your offenses that you had that were so good and a little bit ahead of the time with spreading the ball out and doing some different things offensively in the NFL before it really became sort of mainstream?
Yeah, well, our offense in 1980 with Ron Jaworski had more ability to play like the game should be played today than we utilized then, because no one was doing then what they do with the ball today. It was a little bit of a different game. If you didn't run the ball 40 times, you were chicken. What do you mean trying to? You're supposed to knock the heck out of everybody on every snap. No, Ron's numbers would have been far more impressive, and as well as any quarterback that was a Super Bowl quarterback. The numbers would have been better if they were playing in the game today. But so they were good for what they did, great for what they did. And these guys today playing, they have no limitation, really. The only limitation that Patrick might have is his ankle. He may not run like he could normally run, and because he could run. Now he's not a Jalen Hurts. And the worst thing you could do is say that Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball real well, because I've seen him throw the ball as well as anybody can throw it. So it's going to be interesting. It'll come down to those big guys up front, the pass rushers, the pass blockers. Do the pass blockers give the quarterbacks with skill opportunity to be as good as they have the ability to be? Do they give them time to get to the ball to the Kelce's, the wide receivers, and the people downfield? So the big guys will probably end up determining how this game is played.
Visiting with Dick Vermeil, do you have an emotional pull or a tug at the heart one way or another with these two teams matching up on Sunday?
Well, you know what I'm doing? I love them both. I say this. I went in the Hall of Fame as an Eagle because I lived there. I coached there longer. I felt more like a coach then because I was doing everything myself, running my own offense, calling my own quarterbacks, calling my own plays. So you feel a little bit more into it than you do just the overall leader. But what I'm saying to myself, and I'm saying this honestly, I'm going to root for both teams to win and then feel real bad for the team that loses.
Yeah, it's when you've got that connection there, I can't imagine. It's sort of like the parents of the Kelce's. She's wearing a Chiefs and an Eagles jersey, and she was asked on Monday night, "What are you going to do during the game?" "I'm just going to yell when the offense has the ball."
I wish I had the same jersey, the green and red one. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you get a Vermeil on the back.
I saw that picture. Yeah, that's
great. Dick Vermeil is our guest. I don't want Andy Reid to ever retire because I think he's a fantastic coach and what he's done for this organization. But it's going to come a time for everybody. As you look back over your career, I mean, you made the decision multiple times to say, you know what, it's probably enough for me in coaching and let me try something else. What went into those decisions for you as to why it felt like it was the time at the time to do something else in your life and not be that head coach of a particular team or organization?
Well, the first time I left the league in 1982, I was a mess. I just wasn't the coach I thought I ought to be, or was I the coach I had become in coaching the Eagles and taking them to a Super Bowl. I was disintegrating from inside, and I wasn't proud of myself, so I knew I needed a break. I didn't realize I was going to stay out 14 years. I enjoyed the broadcasting. When I went into broadcasting my first year, they doubled my salary from $75,000 a year to $150,000, and I'm working 16 weekends. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Not bad.
But anyway, I should have listened. I wish, I don't walk around in expressing regrets or all this kind of stuff. I just move on. But if I had it to do over again, I would listen to the people that were giving me advice that I didn't listen to, and I would have sought a little professional help to help me control my own emotion and intensity and everything else that would have allowed me to stay in coaching. When I left after winning the Super Bowl, I have grandchildren all around me and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, heck, you win the world championship, go home and share family experiences that you wouldn't share if you kept in coaching. Then I left, and I get home and find out they're busy. They don't have a lot of time. Their schedule is different than mine. They got volleyball games, lacrosse games, soccer games. Oh, my God. But anyway, I go back, and I have no regrets in going back. It was a great experience to work for the Chiefs and the Hunt family, now run by Clark Hunt and Carl Peterson, who brought me there. And no, my only regret in my career that I didn't do a good enough job of coaching to hand the Lamar Hunt Trophy to Lamar Hunt, one of the finest men I ever met in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you had a couple of good teams. It's hard, though. I mean, it's just, Chiefs fans, we talked about it in 2019, Dick, as we were at the Super Bowl in Miami, and then even after the Super Bowl, I'm like looking back and seeing different teams the Chiefs had, and it's like, you see what a Super Bowl team looks like when it's right in front of you with the Chiefs winning that Super Bowl against San Francisco, and it's like, yeah, there were some flaws, but man, you just wanted some of those teams to do a little bit better, and that game against the Colts in the divisional round still, sticks with a lot of Chiefs fans of just, man, the opportunity was there, and that team was really good.
Oh, yeah, and we're good enough to win it all. It wasn't a good matchup. That's the only playoff game played in the history of the league where neither team punted.
Yeah.
And remember Gonzalez, the winning touchdown call back?
Yep.
Those things happen. If he scores on that, we win the game. But that's just the way it is. And like I say this all the time, it's not the best of seven like in the NBA or Major League Baseball. You only get the one opportunity,
Yeah.
And regardless, when it's all said and done, you better appreciate it, regardless of how it goes. It's tough to get there.
Dick Vermeil is our guest. You've lived an amazing life and been portrayed in different movies. Who do you think did a better job of playing you in a movie, Greg Kinnear or Dennis Quaid?
Well, I appreciated Dennis Quaid using some actual statements that I used in talking to Kurt. That didn't happen in the first movie, The Invincible. They actually used some statements that I made to Kurt Warner that added credibility and authenticity to the movie presentation.
Interesting. That's an interesting thing to know about those two different movies. Dick Vermeil is our guest. Last one. Do you have a feel for how the game will go? You said that whoever wins, you'll be happy for. Whoever loses, you'll be devastated for. But do you have a feel as to what we may see on Sunday in this game?
Well, my computer says that the Eagles are going to win by 4. But, the computer only compiles information for 17 games. You have to produce your own information in this game, okay?
Yeah.
What are you going to do in the Super Bowl? And both teams have almost no limitations. I think the biggest challenge will be to the Chiefs' defense, because the Eagles come into the league with one of the better offenses in the NFL and one of the top 3 defenses in the NFL. Kansas City can't boast that right now. That doesn't mean they can't play like that Sunday, and I won't be surprised if they do. Steve has done a great job with the defense there, and they have improved all through the season. So it's going to come down to who doesn't make the mistake, who doesn't get the call that goes against them, who doesn't get the pass interference call when it wasn't pass interference, or pass interference when it was pass interference, all these different kinds of things. 1 or 2 plays are going to make the difference.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. Dick Vermeil. Dick, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Great catching up with you, and just one of the many connections here with this game coming up this weekend.
All right. Go Chiefs. Go Eagles. Take care.
Yes, that's right. Go Chiefs. Go Eagles. Dick Vermeil joining us here in the zone. Went to a Super Bowl with the Eagles, fell short, won a Super Bowl with the Rams, and did not get there with the Chiefs. And as he said, one of his biggest regrets is not being able to hand Lamar Hunt the Lamar Hunt Trophy when he was the head coach. And we know ultimately it made it back here to Kansas City, but not with Lamar Hunt holding that. But now 3 out of 4, and we'll see what happens coming up this weekend. Saying that the team that who makes the least amount of mistakes. Sometimes it typically comes down to that, but I thought it was also interesting who maybe has a call that goes their way one way or another. That can certainly have an impact. We've talked about that before. Doesn't mean that the officials have cost or won a game or the script was there for the NFL, but certainly some plays can change parts of the game and take it in a different direction, but you can overcome those things as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will continue rolling, hanging out here at Radio Row. Our coverage presented by Blue Note Bourbon, ranked among the very best whiskeys worthy of your attention by Whiskey Advocate. Pick up some Blue Note Bourbon for the big game and all your occasions. More Zone coming up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Snags. Spags was talking about Sneed. Snags was talking about speed.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out in Phoenix, Radio Row, heading up to Super Bowl 57. Thank you to Dick Vermeil joining us in the previous segment. Joining us now, talking a little NFL football, Aaron Taylor is our guest here, former Notre Dame Irishman, former Green Bay Packer, Super Bowl champion as well. Aaron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm all of a sudden feel deflated, though, knowing that I'm following Dick Vermeil. Like, talk about setting a guy up for failure. Holy smokes.
He usually sets people up for success, though.
Well, he's man, how do you not like that guy? I was in Canton this year when he got inducted. My best friend from college, Bryant Young, who went in with the 49ers, was there, and just got to see his aura and who he is. And, like, normally they would, like, drop the lights and have the music and, you know, have the cane to pull him off because Dick likes to talk and do his thing. But he's so dang personable. And his stories are great. It's just, it's hard to not really like and root for that guy.
Absolutely. And he's got his split allegiance. He ended the interview
by
saying,
doubt.
Go Chiefs, go Eagles.
That's it. That's it.
Sorry, Dick. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to win. What do you think of this? Well, you know what? First of all, you're here with Kipman Labs. And so I wanted to get your at least some information on that as to what Kipman Labs is, what they do, and what the importance of they are.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think we're all familiar with artificial intelligence, AI, but what we're not so familiar with, but very soon will be, is something called PI, or Performance Intelligence. So Kipman Labs is a data science and analytical company that uses and aggregates data that teams collect on their players in the strength and conditioning department, in the athletic training room, from the coaches, and they combine that with all the wearable technology and are able to extrapolate things in ways that we just haven't been able to do before. So we've always known that knowledge is power, but data-driven knowledge is predictive power, and that's allowing performance enhancement, health and safety and recovery, and injury elimination in ways we never thought possible. So they're at the forefront of what's an exploding industry. They're with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, with the Bears so far, 700 teams and organizations worldwide, and it's basically performance enhancement and optimizing what athletes can do on the field by keeping them on the field with algorithms and spreadsheets versus the illicit substances that some of us like to take when we were playing. So it's really revolutionary, and it's fun to be a part of it because injuries were certainly a part of my career.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, injuries were a part of your career because a successful one it was and would have continued to be, no doubt about that. And certainly in Kansas City, very familiar with injury, rehab, going through all of that with Patrick Mahomes' ankle. Travis Kelce's back before the Bengals game, not knowing how serious that was. He woke up on Sunday before the game not knowing if he was going to play. Kelce did because of his back injury.
And I was watching that game, and you watch the first drive, you're like, damn, they in trouble if that's these guys' version of being hurt. Holy smokes. And then you see Mahomes at the end of that game picking up that first down, and Osai got that penalty, which basically made it a makeable field goal and sealed their fate. But, I mean, every one of these games, once you get to the playoff, is a must-win scenario. You're not saving it for when it counts. It does count. So you got to find a way to get yourself out there on the field. And those two and many of the Eagles have found a way to do that as well. It's these are the games that we dream about as kids. We're in the backyard. We're making the great catch and the diving, you know, this and that, and the tackle. Like, we fantasize about being a world champion, and that's why I wear this ring when I'm down there. I did my 156 and put my little crumbs in, and Kansas City and the Eagles, they have a chance to join the club.
Aaron Taylor is our guest, CBS Sports Network with Kipman Labs as well. And, you know, as a former offensive lineman, these are two really good offensive lines that are going up against each other. Do you enjoy watching games where both the offensive lines are as good as the Eagles and Chiefs are, or is there an area of enjoyment of watching, let's say, the Bengals try to figure out how to get around an offensive line that's sort of makeshift, or another team that's sort of figuring out how do we game plan against this or that if we've got a weakness here, as opposed to two strong offensive lines this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, you can appreciate a Maserati or a 4x4 mud truck. They both do the job, but I'm a guy that appreciates good offensive line play because I know just how hard and unique and special that is to have. You look at Kansas City, I think they were top 3 in the league in terms of sacks allowed. Now, you got a pretty dang mobile quarterback. They get the football out fast. That certainly helps them. But the Philadelphia Eagles are among the best teams in the league of running inside the tackles. Now, they'll be going against Chris Jones, and we know what a disruptive force he is for Kansas City. But when they get in the red zone, you look at what they've done in the playoffs, I mean, it's almost 2-to-1 run to pass. In the NFL, that's unheard of. They're elite in the intermediate passing game, and that's all because of what happens up front. And I've never been on a team that's won a championship or been associated with any team that was worth a damn that didn't have good offensive line play, and that wasn't one of the meeting rooms and position groups that led the team. And that is the case for both of these teams on Sunday, and it's going to be fun to watch. Howard Mudd was the great offensive line coach that we lost recently. He was notorious for saying, you know, my guys needed to have toughness, and that was about how much pain and punishment we could dish out. But our guys also had to have resilience. That was how much pain and punishment you can withstand. He said, my guys needed to have both. So what I'm looking at on this game on Sunday is which one of those groups is going to rise to the occasion when it matters most against a formidable defensive line for both of them that they're going against. Offensive line play is going to lead the charge on Sunday, and it's going to be really fun to watch that unfold.
As a former offensive lineman, that probably feels pretty good.
No doubt.
There's a lot of talk about the offensive line coming up this weekend. Do you have a feel for the game as to who wins or a score yet that you've come up with? You got a few more days to get there before having to pick, but it seems like it's split. There's I can't go against Patrick Mahomes, or I feel like the Eagles are the better team, so I'll go with that. Do you have a feel for it?
I don't. I think I'm probably like a lot of people. I think the line at 1.5 is there for good reason. I was part of a Super Bowl that was the biggest spread at that time, 14 points with us in Denver, and we lost Super Bowl 32. This, as I understand, it's one of the closest spreads, and for good reason. At the end of the day, football's still a game of blocking and tackling, and because of that, I like the Philadelphia Eagles in their internal run game between the tackles. As good as Chris Jones is, as good as that defense has been, they've been susceptible between the tackles. They've been susceptible in the run game, which is something the Eagles do really well in the red zone against. So those are the things in the situational football that I think matter. And I just think Jalen Hurts, even though he's been hurt, this is his moment. And it's hard to pick against a Patrick Mahomes because you watch this gutsy performance that he's had. But, again, the blocking and tackling portion, I'm going to go with running game and defense. And if you can get to the quarterback with your front four and don't have to blitz and can play coverage and tackle guys that can't allow them to catch and run, that's what Kansas City's been killing people with. There's all these underneath passes on those short, shallow crosses, and they catch and run for big gains. If they can keep that in check, I think Philly can basically play keep away and walk out victorious.
Aaron Taylor, our guest. Aaron, thank you for the time, man. Very much appreciate it, sir. Enjoy the game and hanging out here at Radio Row. We always appreciate talking to you down here.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. There is Aaron Taylor joining us, and Kitman Labs he is with as well with that beautiful Super Bowl ring. And the Chiefs trying to get these Chiefs players, a number of them trying to get Super Bowl ring number 2, and a lot of them trying to get Super Bowl ring number 1, just as the Eagles players are as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll talk with Mike Golic coming up at the top of the noon hour. We're going to hang out with Kurt Warner in the noon hour as well. Kenny Mayne will join us. Mick Schaefer at some point in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll do that. We continue rolling. We are hanging out here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We are in Phoenix. It's Super Bowl 57. Our coverage continues right after this.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So what we had planned for this segment, we got into Jack Bleep of what we were going to do here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you as we are hanging out in Phoenix at Radio Row as we head up to Super Bowl 57. Joining us now from Westwood One, you'll hear on the broadcast coming up this weekend right here on Sports Radio 810. Mike Golic joining us here in the zone. Mike, how are you, sir? Oh, I should probably turn your mic on. That's my fault. It's perfect.
We'll go there. Okay, I wasn't sure which one, and I didn't want to mess with your board here.
No, that's
but
fine.
The rejoin there is so true. What you plan to talk about and then you don't talk about it. A lot of times those are your best segments, though, right?
Absolutely.
When you plan something, and Greeny and I used to do that, and all of a sudden we'd be talking about who's a better superhero, Batman or Superman, and it turned out to be just some fun segments.
We ended up having a show talking about truck nuts a couple of weeks ago for some reason.
Truck nuts?
Yep, the novelty that
that hangs from the
back of the truck.
Okay, there you go.
We
Gotcha.
ended up doing that because Josh, who I do the show with back in KC, said I can't remember who it was that was bad against tight ends. It might have been the Jaguars are terrible against tight ends, and he said I wonder if they're going to try to overcompensate for that. I said, what are they going to show up on their bus with truck nuts?
Would you like? I would like.
And
to
the whole show ended up being.
Well, I was going to say I would like to interview somebody who drives a truck with truck nuts just to see what kind of personality they have. You can kind of peg them. You kind of stereotype what type of person they're going to be. I'd like to see if they actually are like that.
That's exactly right. Mike Golic is our guest. Do I introduce you as former Eagle or just former Dolphin and Oiler? Do I leave the Eagle thing out?
No, you probably want to keep that in since that was most of my career there.
Right.
But, people always say, oh, you're rooting for the Eagles because you played there. Listen, I know people in the organization, but nobody is there when I was there. I loved the fans, even though they can certainly be pretty extreme. So I had a great time there. And again, a lot of it was about relationships with players because this was before free agency I was there. So, my teammates were my friends as well.
Yeah.
So I had a great time there. But, yeah, it's obviously that was 87 to 93, so it was a little while ago.
That's right. Mike Golic is our guest, Westwood One. You'll be on the sidelines coming up this weekend. Is there a coin flip between you and Laura as to which sideline you work? Do you switch?
We both work both sidelines
Okay.
because we're doing different things. Now, the first time I ever worked sideline was the Super Bowl last year because I'm normally in the booth.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing Sunday night games with Ryan Radke for Westwood One. But for this, obviously, it's Kevin and Carl and Kurt Warner in the booth. They said be an analyst on the sideline. Like Laura will handle like the news on the sideline, injuries on the sideline. I'm going to be watching the play, and they'll come to me, and I'll just kind of be an extra set of analyst eyes down on the field to talk with Kurt about and stuff that way. So, she's the pro down there. Let's make no mistake. Laura Oakman is the pro on the sideline. I'm just down there, A, trying not to get in the way, and B, trying to bring people something that I see at field level.
Which is great because there's so much more.
Yes.
Maybe not more, but there are other things you can glean from being on the field.
In all honesty, and I even look for it when I'm in the booth, and now when I'm on the sideline, I can actually hear it. I love seeing when teams come off the field and they're on the sideline. Mm-hmm. What are they talking about? What's the body language? Is anybody bickering? And I don't care about the bickering as a thing of, hey, guys, these guys are fighting down here. During a game, there's always disagreements. That's the emotion. But if they're fighting, what are they fighting about? What are they doing to correct it? You can get a lot of information I found last year on the sideline because you have full access there to really see the emotions of the players or any adjustments that they're making.
Yeah, Laura was with us yesterday, and it was a great. She was talking about. She said something along the lines like, "I'm not a sideline reporter. I'm an energy reporter."
Yes,
that you could just. She wants to get a feel for the team.
Well, think about that. I mean, when you're in the booth, you're away from it. People are watching from home. So Laura gives you that. This is what it's like down here. Yeah. So and she paints the picture. Especially in radio, you paint that picture so well that you get the listeners to kind of feel that energy as well.
Yeah, and she didn't leave the Chiefs sideline against the Bengals because there kept being injury after injury after injury. She's like, I've never done that before.
That's where the news was, but that's where you got to be, right?
And how maybe impressive could be the word of the Chiefs being able to overcome an 0-3 against the Bengals, and then those injuries, and even going into the game was Kelsey's back and, of course, Patrick Mahomes' ankle.
The Kelsey back thing, we all knew about Mahomes' ankle. The Kelsey back thing was like, oh, okay, backs are awful. Mm-hmm. and then you lose 3 wide receivers. And I was talking a little earlier in the week to Juju Smith-Schuster, and he and MVS, and they were talking about, all of a sudden we're looking out there, and I know Juju was one of the ones, that was nicked. It's like all of a sudden we don't have our guys out there, so you're talking to guys that don't play a whole lot, and you're relying on them. It's a tough situation. I mean, but they pulled it out. I mean, think of San Francisco. You're going in a game with a backup, your third quarterback, and Brock Purdy, who had played well. He gets hurt. Josh Johnson comes in, gets his head slammed off the turf. He's out. I mean, you're like, what the hell? Yeah. So injuries can ruin you like it did San Francisco, or, you're Kansas City and you overcome that because you still have Patrick Mahomes, you still have Chris Jones, you still have plenty of playmakers.
Mike Golic is our guest. What do you think of trying to get people's opinions on just this matchup? I feel like it's the 2 best teams in the NFL that are meeting up, but do you agree?
I agree, and I think I said this before the championship games. The NFC have the more complete teams. Both San Francisco and Philly are more complete than Kansas City and Cincinnati. So I still think the NFC, in this case Philly, is a more complete team than Kansas City. But then you say, but Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. So you just don't know what's going to happen. The matchup is obviously the lines. Mm-hmm. Philly has the best O-line in the game. Philly's D-line had 70 sacks in the regular season. I mean, good luck, Kansas City. You got to overcome that. Yeah. Now, you have Patrick Mahomes. He can escape the pocket. We saw him 2 weeks ago, rolling left, throwing back right, and all of a sudden he came up hobbling a little bit. Now he's had 2 weeks for the high ankle. So where is that? Is it going to take one little wrong push-off or one little twist, and it's going to be tweaked again on him? Because there's no doubt he's going to be under pressure. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, while Kansas City's a hell of a team, I find it hard to believe they're going to be able to keep that pass rush away from Patrick the entire game. If they can, more power to them, and it's probably game over. But it's going to be difficult. Patrick's going to have to make some plays on the run.
How much is keeping the pass rush away from Patrick Mahomes, that actual game and winning one-on-one versus the couple of weeks leading up to it in game plan and scheme by Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, to come up with ways to make sure that pass rush doesn't
the ways are get the ball out of your hands quickly, whether it's slants, but if you got the corners playing up tight while you're going to pass rush and say, no, because we get pressure, quarterback's going to get rid of the ball quickly. So what we either want to do is contest the quick throw or give up the 3-yard throw and tackle him right away. Don't give him any yards after the catch. No, he's got to dish it quick. They get a short completion, tackle him right there. I think 2 guys that could be key for Kansas City is Isaiah Pacheco, running the ball, because Philly can be a little susceptible to the run, especially if he bounces outside. And then the middle of the field, which could be Travis Kelce area. It could be Jared McKinnon coming out of the backfield, with a quick throw. Get the ball out of your hands, get it to somebody in space. So McKinnon, I mean, who had him picked at the beginning of their lead all running backs and touchdown receptions? Yeah. I know I didn't. I did not. But that's what he's doing. So there's a couple of key guys outside of the obvious key guys.
Yeah, I'm lying to you. I actually picked it. I told everybody that.
Oh, you did. Well, you are the man then.
I said, but wait till December. Just wait till December. Then he's going to really turn it
on. Your truck must have truck nuts.
Don't need them.
Yeah.
Mike Golic, our guest from Westwood One, as a defensive lineman, going up against these 2 good offensive linemen or offensive lines. Yeah. What's the challenge then? Let's say from the Chiefs' perspective, what's the challenge for the Chiefs? Chris Jones is as good as it gets on the interior to go up against that Eagles offensive line.
Well, I mean, what'll be interesting is for Chris Jones, how much will he pop outside? We saw in that last sack, he went outside. Dunlap wanted to go outside, and he was like, no. Dunlap didn't look too happy after that. Like, that could have been my sack there. I don't know how much will – now, listen, Chris Jones will have the thought process he can beat anybody on the field, and in a lot of cases he can. But you also – listen, we did this back in my years with Reggie White. Reggie White moved up and down the line, and you find a weak link and put Reggie on that guy. So with Chris Jones, you do that as well. And the weak link isn't the right tackle for Philadelphia. It's not Lane Johnson.
Yeah, right.
So I wonder if Chris will be more on the interior, trying to push the guards. You have Landon Dickerson, the left guard, who's got the elbow issue going on. So, you'll try and find spots where it'll work best for Chris Jones to rush. Obviously, you got Clark rushing as well, but you'll find that spot for Chris Jones.
Mike Golic, our guest, and we've asked everybody their prediction, but I know you're working the game, so
yeah,
you won't give us one.
Can't do that.
But thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed it, and enjoy the game coming up this week. And looking forward to the coverage and listening as to what's going on down on the field and some of the
appreciate
the analysis.
Going to be. I hope it's a great game. Bottom line, I hope it's a great game.
I think it will be. I think it will. We'll see who comes out on top. Your Eagles or Oilers? Chiefs. We'll see. Mike Golic, our guest. Thank you so much for your time.
No
appreciate it. There's Mike Golic joining us right here in Phoenix at Radio Row on Sports Radio 810 WHB here in the Zone as we continue to broadcast live. We'll be here the rest of the day today, tomorrow, and on into Friday as well. Our coverage presented by Blue Note Bourbon, ranked among the very best whiskeys worthy of your attention by Whiskey Advocate. Pick up some Blue Note Bourbon for the big game and all your occasions. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back, and we're going to talk with Kurt Warner coming up next. So looking forward to our conversation. Kurt Warner with Westwood One and NFL Network. We'll hear from him breaking down this matchup. That's next. We'll talk with Kurt Warner right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is a guy through the first 3 quarters of the game had a quarterback rating of, well, now I lost that.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you as we continue broadcasting from Radio Row in Phoenix as we are heading up to the Super Bowl 57, coming up on Sunday. And right now joined by Hall of Famer, former quarterback Kurt Warner, joining us in the zone, also known as Cade Warner's dad.
Yes.
So
I like that title. I like that title a lot.
You like that one?
Yes.
We joked about, things that happen in games where either national broadcasters will say something that the local fans know, and it's like, okay, here we go again.
Yes.
And we joked about with K-State, then, it's Kurt Warner on TV. They got to show the Warner family when K-State's playing football.
Yes, we all get tired of that, and I know my kids get tired of that, because, I think they understand why, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I just want to get out of that shadow and I want to write my own story.
Yeah.
So, but there's burden and blessing in everything, right? And they've received a lot of blessing from that, so they're going to have to deal with that a little bit longer. But the hope is, and Cade had a great year this year. It was so much fun to see him finally get the opportunity to play and make plays, and then to see the success that they had. And so, it's all about writing your own story, and I think that's something about us Warners. It's never been easy. It's always been different for us, but it's been fun to watch. Cade do the things that he did from Nebraska to K-State, and now wants to give it a shot at the next level. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And then I've got a freshman over at Temple, EJ, who was a freshman All-American after being, not quite recruited the way that maybe he deserved to be recruited. And, so it's all about writing your own story and forging your own path. And both my boys have done that, and it's been fun to watch.
Absolutely. Kurt Warner is our guest. And will you guys compare rings, your Super Bowl ring and his Big 12 championship ring when he gets that? Was there going to be a
happy to compare any of my rings with that one right now. Until he gets another one, I think I still have bragging rights.
That's right. Around the dinner table, you still got that. In the Hall of Fame and all of that stuff. Kurt Warner is our guest. What do you make of this matchup coming up this weekend of quarterbacks? It's not that, cookie cutter probably isn't the right word of quarterbacks that in the NFL for so many years, that now there's so much diversity with how they play the game and different ways that you can, get the job done. These two quarterbacks sort of, exemplify that.
They do. But I'm always excited about, just good quarterback play. And I don't really care what it looks like. That's the thing about it is that, I was more conventional, and I'm sure there's a part of me as an analyst and as a player that likes to see the convention and the mental part of the game and playing, on schedule and some of that stuff. But, as I've grown as an analyst and gotten away from the game, I try to appreciate all the different styles of play. And so, it's hard not to appreciate Patrick and all the things that he's done and all the different things that he can do on the field, his ability to play in the pocket, his ability to ad-lib as well as anybody we've ever seen, and his ability to elevate his teammates. And so, you're always excited to watch him, especially on these big stage. Jalen has been fun because it's been fun to watch the growth.
Yeah.
A year ago, people were still wondering, could he be that guy? Could he be the franchise guy? And there's still room to grow. He's not a finished product yet, but it's been fun to watch the growth that he made from last year to this year. And then also how the system complements what he's really good at. And that, to me, is what this sport is all about. That's what great coaching is all about, is you can have great talent, but it's figuring out how to use that talent to accentuate their greatest gifts. And I believe Coach Sirianni and the offensive staff with Philly have done that this year. And, he's surrounded by great players. So what? All great teams, all great quarterbacks are surrounded by great players in different ways. But they do a great job of utilizing his skills while he's growing to become a complete quarterback. And that, to me, is what makes this so unique, is that Philly's going to come in and they're not going to say, we're going to ask Jalen to drop back 35 or 40 times. No, we got here one way, playing to his strengths. We're going to allow him to play to his strengths. And then hopefully 2 or 3 years from now, if we need to do that or when we need to do that, we feel comfortable spreading it out or changing it up from week to week to keep people off balance. But you do what got you here, and it's going to be fun to watch because both guys play really well in the moment.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that we've known about Jalen. If you have questions about a lot of things, he's a winner. And you put him out on the field and put the ball in his hands, and he makes plays. And he did that again this year. So I think we got two quarterbacks that are truly going to impact this game with their playmaking. And for me, as a fan of the game and as a fan of the position, I'm extremely excited about that.
Kurt Warner's our guest, and you talk about that accentuating his skills and what he does well. That quarterback-coach combination and relationship that's there to elevate each other. There's a conversation of, Patrick Mahomes came into the league and he had Andy Reid. So, which is true. I mean, the culture was built there, and you have one of the best offensive minds in the game. I think the flip side is also true, that Andy Reid has been really successful throughout his career, and he's been to a Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb, and he had success with Alex Smith. But Andy Reid then got Patrick Mahomes, and he got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he won a Super Bowl. You were with Dick Vermeil. I mean, Dick Vermeil was successful in all these different spots in college and the pros, and he went to a Super Bowl. Then he got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he went and won a Super Bowl. So there's that marriage between the two that can elevate both. Elevate Dick Vermeil's mind in offense with you at quarterback and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and the greatest show on turf, and elevate Andy Reid, what he wants to do offensively when you've got a Patrick Mahomes that's there.
Well, and I also believe it's the ability of the coach to adjust to that talent. It's not just like, oh, somebody dropped a great quarterback in my lap, we can do whatever we want and we're going to win. No, the beautiful thing is that Andy's very creative and he's got a great offensive mind. He's now just got a piece that allows him to do all of this stuff that was in there anyways. And that to me is the uniqueness of great coaches. It's their ability to adapt and the ability to be able to think beyond, or the ability to just be open to learning.
Yeah.
And a great example is when I, came to Arizona with Ken Wisenhunt. Ken Wisenhunt came from Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh was a two-back, tight end, downhill run game, play action type coach. And that's what he wanted to try to do in Arizona because that's what he knew. And when I was there, I'm like, yeah, I can do some of that stuff, but A, it's not my strength, and B, we're not built that way. And so us going through that adjustment period of him going, all right, Kurt, you're going to have to help me learn what this looks like and how to play this way and what you're capable of doing because that system is more defined. It's a simpler system from, the mental processing standpoint. And so through that 3-year period when we were together, it was about him and his willingness to be open to listening to what I could do and what I would see and why I designed plays this way. And he was able to grow and adapt and give me the freedom to be a part of helping shape this offense around what I could do. So, it's having coaches that have that flexibility or that understanding or that creativity that connects to their playmakers to allow them to, like you said, both ascend to new levels that they weren't able to ascend to by themselves or without, the right kind of guy in their system. And that's the beautiful part of it. And I think that's why, Andy and Patrick is so much fun because you've got this guru and this genius with this guy that can do everything. And, and we're seeing things accomplished that we've never or rarely seen any quarterback coach accomplish.
Kurt Warner is our guest here in the Zone, and I'm a big fan of the QB Confidential that you guys have,
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
And what you do on YouTube. And this week's are great with the playmakers and watching those. It's great insight for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Travis Kelce and Jerick McKinnon. We talked about one that you did over the summer because there was a conversation in Kansas City when there was an unnamed defensive play caller that said Patrick Mahomes was a street ball player, a one-read guy. And the breakdown of just looking at the different plays in the Bills game was so next level because it's from what the quarterback is seeing. And it's interesting, what would look like a first read actually the way you pointed it out was, well, this is like a second or third read.
Right.
And it's a second or third because look what the defense is doing after the snap and how quickly Mahomes recognizes it. And then, boom, this is actually a second read. It looks like his first. It was great breakdown. And it felt like, in talking about that, like it almost felt like you took offense to somebody saying that Mahomes was a one-read street ball quarterback.
I just take offense to people that, A, either don't know the position enough that they make flippant comments, or B, that they try to create a narrative without fully understanding what they're saying means.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the position, and I just want to teach the position. And if you're, it's the same way about everything. I don't like to speak on anything that I don't feel I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just going to throw out a flippant response to something like, hey, I'm going to tell this offensive lineman what he should have done, unless I really feel I know what I'm talking about. And so I take offense to anything that, and especially people in the know or people in positions where people are going to listen to them. I want you to tell me why. And, the biggest thing for me, like with the QB Confidential, is what I always want to do is I want to show people. Yeah. That to me is, I become the XO guy on our, NFL game day morning. And the reason I do that is because I want to show an XO on everything. Because I don't want anybody to ever think I'm just saying something or that I'm just repeating what someone else said. I want to show you why I'm saying it. And, when you get into my position, there's times you have to be critical of guys. You have to say, Patrick didn't play very well this game. Let me show you why.
Yeah.
I don't care that he threw for 350 yards. I don't care. I'm going to show you why I don't think he played very well. But I always want to back it up with fact. And so when I hear people, like that, an anonymous defense coordinator said this. Okay, show me why. If you want to say it, show me why you said it, because I watch all the film. I watch every snap. I watch every quarterback. And I know, or at least, and again, Patrick could be playing back there and just making it up as he goes. But when you see it over and over again, and like you said, if a good quarterback's playing the game and you've got a good concept, you have two receivers that are your number one read. Because it's all based on, does this defender go high? Does this defender go low? Does he go inside? Does he go outside? So, for people to just kind of say he's one read and take off, you have to understand what that means and what he should be looking at. And does he look at that thing, and is he able to react off of it? And, so it irritates me because I don't believe enough people, and again, I don't know who this defense coordinator is. I would assume a defense coordinator does his homework. But I believe there's a lot of people out there that don't do their homework. And they hear narratives, or they see a guy that's really good off schedule, and they say, he's just a street ball player. And I don't believe that. And so I want to give guys proper respect. I want to make sure that I show people why. So if I hear something like that, you're right. I'm going to jump on QB Confidential and go, okay, I heard that. Okay, I watched the tape. I already knew what what I believed anyways. But, I was able to take one game. That wasn't like a compilation of 17 weeks of going, look, let me show you 10 times where Patrick actually read the field. That was in one game where I had like 17 plays.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now explain it to me. Now tell me how you can argue that when you see it over and over and over again. And so it's really just about educating people to really the game and the position.
Well, and one of the things that I had taken a note of in the Jags game was something you talked about with Travis Kelce and the relationship they have, and it was a miss. And I'm glad you brought it up because I noted that, Mahomes just completely missed Kelce. He was wide open. Maybe it was the ankle. And you noted, and it wasn't the ankle. Mahomes put it exactly where he wanted it to go. Kelce was going exactly where he thought he should go. They just weren't on the same page. I thought it was brilliant breakdown, and I want to learn as much as I can, so I go back and change that note.
Yeah,
that I'm not saying, well, maybe I was the ankle. No, Kurt Warner broke it down, and now I know what happened. They're not on the page every single play. Yeah. But more times than not, they are. That one just missed.
Yeah, exactly. And, and you also have to watch the tape over and over again.
Yeah.
So that was actually on a corner route. And that's probably the one route more than any others where Patrick and Travis have a little bit of leeway to adjust the route. So it's a normal corner route where he's going to continue running towards the sideline. And then because they both have great feel, Travis will come out and he'll feel pressure outside, so he slows into that hole. And so the play you're talking about, Patrick threw it inside thinking he was going to slow. Travis went outside, and so they just missed. And, it's that fine line of going, man, just do what you're supposed to do, and then I can read it and throw it where I want, and we won't miss. But yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, I actually did a breakdown this week on those two guys.
Yeah,
how many plays they've actually made that if they stay where they're supposed to stay based on how you draw it up on a board, they probably wouldn't have been able to have a completion. He would have had to work on somewhere else. So, there are those times that it's not going to work out and you're going to miss. The hope is just that it doesn't happen very often and it doesn't happen in critical moments. And, it's something that I love to pay attention to because they both have great feel for the game. But it can lead to huge plays, but it also can lead to negative plays. And in the course of the game, those 2 or 3 plays can be really, really huge.
Last one for you, Kurt Warner, our guest. What do you think happens in the game? Do you have a prediction, a score, a team that you think will win?
I actually don't make my prediction until Sunday, so I get.
You got 8 hours on the.
Right. So I get the ability to change my pick.
Absolutely.
I think the Eagles are the better team.
Okay.
I think when you look at them top to bottom, and specifically in the trenches, you get to this time of year. We saw Patrick play a couple years ago against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay won in the trenches. And you get to these games where you have two good teams. The team that can win in the trenches more often than not usually wins these games outside of, a guy like Patrick just going off, or, Chris Jones just disrupting everything. But I think the Eagles are the better team. And so, I'm leaning in that direction that because of that, that they probably pull this out or they have more ways in which they can win. But I don't sit here and look at this and go, oh, Chiefs have no chance. I think the Chiefs are a really good football team. They're just young. And Patrick's, I think, going to have to play really, really well, or Andy's going to have to design some specific things to get him some big plays. But I'm hoping it's a good game. I hope both quarterbacks play well. But I'm leaning towards the Eagles right now.
All right, Kurt Warner here in the Zone at Radio Row. Kurt, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
You got it. My pleasure.
All right, there's Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, joining us here in the Zone as we hang out here. Radio Row in Phoenix leading up to Super Bowl 57. Our coverage presented by Twin Peaks. America's favorite sport crowns a champ on February 12th. Show up early, cash out quarterly. The first 100 guests qualify for the Squares board. Watch the game at Twin Peaks. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Why are you getting things wrong, Jason?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out at Radio Row in Phoenix, as leading up to Super Bowl 57, and our coverage presented by Dream Lawn, here to disrupt the lawn care industry. At Dream Lawn, the products are all natural and help your lawn thrive. Professional golf courses, baseball stadiums, and acres of farmland are all making the change to Dream Lawn. Go to dreamlawn.com and learn about the difference. Thank you to Kurt Warner joining us in the previous segment, breaking down and talking about this game and what he thinks of this game and these quarterbacks. And I really do enjoy the QB Confidential that he does. And, we didn't even really have a chance to get into his full-on breakdown of, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and that relationship, and really even the Jerick McKinnon one, which I think is really interesting because the more and more people we talk with here continue to point out Jerick McKinnon. I mean, Mike Golic talking with him, earlier in the show before Kurt Warner, and he, talking about Jerick McKinnon. We've heard others, mention Jerick McKinnon. So expected to be a big part of the game plan for the Chiefs to try to counter the pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we'll talk with Kenny Mayne here in just a little bit when he sits down as he's bouncing around from station to station. So, but enjoyed the Kurt Warner conversation, and otherwise known, Josh, as Cade Warner's dad. Cade Warner's father.
It seemed like that might have been his favorite of the titles that you were bestowing upon him.
Like, you've won a championship, you've won a couple of MVPs, you are in the Hall of Fame, and you're Cade Warner's dad. Thank you. That's it. That's all I want to be known by. It also felt like he was kind of annoyed at how often they were showing on TV. That he's like, we just want to watch our son. Like, it's about our son, not about us. And I get it, because he's always been Kurt Warner's son, right? And now he's doing his own thing out there and winning a Big 12 championship. But I did love because he's going to get a ring. He's going to get a nice ring for winning the Big 12, will Cade Warner. Like that comparison. Yeah, I'll hold my Super Bowl ring up against his. I think I still got bragging rights on my son. He wasn't letting him have an inch on that. I got bragging rights on my. Take that, Cade.
Win a real ring.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Right. Kurt Warner said that to his child. Flesh and blood.
Win a real ring. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. 913-912-4810 if you want to weigh in. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock. Text says, damn, it's hard not to love Kurt even though he was a Ram. Yeah, I mean, but he was also a Cardinal and a Giant and a lot of other things. The story is just amazing. I mean, it's just simply what it is. I mean, I also wanted to ask him, like, the comparison between he and Patrick Mahomes in the immediate success in different ways. Kurt Warner, it was a long trip to finally get that starting job, but then it was immediate. I mean, MVP, Super Bowl, MVP a couple of years later, and more Super Bowls in his career, but just starting, and it was like, who's this new guy? This is the greatest show on turf. Different with Patrick Mahomes because he was the number 10 pick in the draft, and he sat out that first year. But when he was finally the starter, it was MVP and AFC Championship game, and now 3 Super Bowls in the next 4 years after that. Like, it was immediate, and just how handling that success and the adjustments that have to be made while other teams are adjusting to you and you got to adjust back. I would like to have another 15, 20 minutes with Kurt Warner if I could. You know what, the whole hour. He's got an 8.5-hour pregame on NFL Network on Sunday, and then the call of the game with Kevin Harlan. So he'll have plenty of time to present his opinions on what he thinks is going to happen in the game and break down and analyzing those things.
Just kind of his ethos of it all, also just being like, hey, look, I'm just trying to teach people about this position a little bit more because I love it. I care about it. I care about good, intelligent teaching and not just people spouting nonsense. And I don't want to spout nonsense if I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just there's an analysis moral compass there in Kurt Warner that is good to hear because I think we could use a little more of that every once in a while.
Yeah, and he seemed to be like he was actually annoyed at the unnamed defensive coordinator that said that Mahomes is just a street baller. So you can go check out all of those things. He's got like an hour YouTube video on Patrick Mahomes alone that he put out like a month ago. So good stuff there from Kurt Warner. We'll talk with Kenny Mayne here in just a little bit, and then of course Mick Schaefer. We will talk with Mick Schaefer. So
best for last, saving the big guns.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So we were going to talk with Mike Golic coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, but then things got moved around, and then Kurt Warner couldn't go until 12:30, and they're like, hey, we can do Mike Golic right now, and then boom, great, because Mike was going to be on with Mick Schaefer, and I asked around in the break there, and they actually said, yeah, he didn't want to be on with Mick Schaefer, so he was willing to move his schedule around and not have to talk to Mick.
I also tried, and you said, no, you have to be here until 2 o'clock Central Time, so I can't avoid Mick if I try.
That's right. Sorry, you've got to be here. You've got to talk and counter whatever absurd things he says. All of that stuff. It has to be done. It's what we're here for. So 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation today. I haven't seen any news or anything from the Chiefs. If there's anything out there, Beards told me there's a big Royals trade that took place that we have to get into and talk about. That's what he said.
Yeah, earth-shattering. Beards, the breaking news sounder at least to give it the respect that it deserves. The Royals have traded left-handed pitcher Anthony Meskowitz to the St. Louis Cardinals for cash considerations. He was DFA'd on February 3rd.
Philly Mauskowitz? That's amazing.
Didn't they already trade for cash considerations? I thought they had him on the roster.
Well, look.
A great point, Beards.
It's a common name. It's a common name. It's like trading for a guy named Jeff Ryan or something.
The Joe Smith.
Yeah, it's the Joe Smiths of Major League Baseball. Cash considerations. It's common in baseball, not very common in just life.
I just want to remind everybody really quickly that there was a guy named Joe Smith that was taken number 1 in the NBA draft one year.
I do remember that, yes. Of course, Joe Smith was taken number 1 in the NBA draft. And you know what? We haven't even got a chance to even talk about the greatest last night becoming the all-time scorer in NBA history and dropping an F-bomb while doing it. So haven't even talked about that at all. Although we did get a text at the beginning of the show when you played the intro of him hitting the shot. The first text of the show was like, well, unfortunate you guys started the show with LaFraud. Still love the show, but annoyed you did that. I'm like, well, it's the all-time scorer in NBA history. I think there's some recognition to be given to the GOAT.
I do want to say one thing, though, really quickly about all that, because, that was a big deal, and that record has stood for 39 years.
Yeah.
That's the last record chase we're getting in the NBA for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's going to keep growing that one. Rebounds is untouchable. That's Wilt. Stockton has got a stranglehold on assists and steals. Olajuwon's got blocks covered. There's nothing else. And unless some role player gets super lucky and is on 11 straight championship teams, Russell's not getting touched. That's going to be it for a long time.
That's a great point. And also when you talk about these, counting stats, when you've got load management now and you don't have guys playing 82 games a year, because Luka, it's all right, who could break LeBron's record? Well, Luka could.
But he only plays 60 games a year.
Yeah, and he's got to average 30 for the next 16 years, and plus he ain't exactly in the best tip-top, athletic, muscle build.
He needs to score 2,000 points a year for 20 straight years, and he hasn't hit 2,000 yet.
Yeah,
he has to be better than he's been as a scorer to this point for the next 20 years. That's all. Yeah, I really like that. There was an article I was reading this morning about some of the who could potentially catch up to LeBron. And here's what it would take for Steph Curry. Here's what it would take for Luka. Here's what it would take for Victor Wembanyama. And it's all just straight humor because everything is they'd have to be better than they've ever been until they're 42 years old. And if they do that, then they can catch him. And for me, I like that because it helped put it into perspective a little bit what we saw last night of this is absolutely ludicrous, but it doesn't feel that way because LeBron has been a superstar since high school.
It doesn't get hurt. It doesn't get hurt until lately.
Didn't get hurt until he turned 500 years old a couple of years ago. And at no point has he even had the ability to really truly exceed expectations in the eyes of the biggest critics because his expectations have always been so high. But you know how we treat athletes who don't reach super high expectations. They're busts. They're forever haunted by those expectations. And he did reach past them in unbelievable consistent dominance.
In that vein, just really quickly, do you know who the highest active player outside of LeBron is on the top list? And I say active only because they haven't officially retired yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think Josh, you know the answer to this because Rudy messaged it last night.
Oh boy, I don't always read Rudy's texts.
Yeah, I didn't get that text either. Well, you were on the text chain. Oh, my bad. I just
Carmelo Anthony, the guy who was
that's
drafted
awesome.
with, at 11th, 10,000 points behind him.
That's so cool. I love it. It makes me happy.
Behind. I mean, that's it's unbelievable. And also, he's probably he hasn't retired yet technically.
He has not played this year.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Damn. Yeah.
How did you have a chance to check in on it, Jason? Or
I
did
did
you have a
watch
little
it, yeah.
party, pop some champagne or anything?
No, we got back from the media party last night to the hotel, and then
How was that not the open of the show?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was a really cool spot. It was just a little out of the way.
And once you've done one party drug, you've done them all. I know you've done them all.
Right? Yeah. It was fine. It was okay. But the food was good and all that stuff. So they throw a decent party. But we went there, had some food, and then we're like, all right, let's head back.
You didn't see anybody of any note?
No, because it was just a media party.
Nobody famous? Okay. I'm just curious.
I didn't. Was that supposed to be somebody that was famous?
Go Tigers.
Oh, okay. You didn't say the name. Usually when you do an impression, you say the name.
Only when I don't believe in it. And frankly, I think my Edo impression is absolutely top notch. It's like he's in the room with me.
Yeah, I love it. And by the way, that wasn't the media party though. That was a different party.
No, that's right. That's fair. I don't know that I don't know that I've actually gone to any of the media parties on my radio road trip, so I'm not sure.
Media members.
You rub elbows with anybody that you, I don't know, just start any beef? Nothing? Okay.
Nope.
All right.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. We walked through, we grabbed some food, and decided to get an Uber back to the hotel. And then when we got back there, we were watching the final 10, 15 minutes of the K-State game and Mizzou, and then had the Lakers game on and watched the rest of that. And felt bad while simultaneously laughing at the guy that paid $50,000 for a courtside seat to tonight's game. Or tomorrow night's game against the Bucks.
Woo, that's tough. That's tough.
That's like Kobe's last game. I saw that somebody tweeted out Kobe's last game. The most expensive ticket was like $30,000, and this guy paid $50,000 for the Bucks and Lakers because that was the expected date of him breaking the record.
For pure chaos, I just wanted somebody to goaltend that final shot. It would have been amazing.
I love the picture that everybody's taking, right? And I know we got a break of LeBron hitting the shot, and I love Thomas Bryant underneath, like, ball, give me the ball, yes, I'm open.
Beat me.
Sealed him off. Come on.
KC fans headed to Arizona for the
The Zone with versus Eagles on your radio home of Super Bowl 57. Sports Radio 810 WHB, Kansas City. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I am incapable of not being annoying. I've tried it.
That's true.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Final hour of this Wednesday edition, hanging out at Radio Row in Phoenix, leading up to Super Bowl 57. And joining us now is Kenny Mayne, hanging out with us here at Radio Row. Kenny, how are you, sir?
I'm well. We're standing.
Yes.
Just to get stretched out. I got a ruined ankle, so I appreciate the consideration.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My watch said you need to stand up because I've been sitting for a while. So it's like, hey, stand up. I'm like, well, I got to sit down because we're talking to Kenny Mayne.
What about when your car tells you to pull off and take a nap? How do they know?
It's weird.
Is it because you're swerving a little? I don't really know why. I've had that at 10. Maybe I'm a bad driver.
Just starts flashing and saying, take a nap.
You are a bad driver. Go away.
Please get off the road, sir. We are worried for everybody else's safety. Kenny Mayne is our guest. And, yes, we are standing. You said you broke your ankle.
I'll tell you a long story about that.
Yeah, sure.
So this is funny because yesterday I was wearing flip-flops, which is the most comfortable shoe for me.
Yeah.
It's not really a shoe, but, barefoot's number one. Flip-flops number two. Slippers sometimes number three. I ruined my ankle playing college football way back when. Now I'm much older. And through the decades, worse and worse and worse. But I found this device, which I'm wearing. I don't know if your camera will show it. In Gig Harbor, Washington, about 4 years ago. And once I put it on, it just changed everything. Like I could run right now. I could play flag football right now. Basketball, not as much because of the lateral, but straight line sports, give me 3 steps, I can still do what I would have loved to play in that Pro Bowl flag game. There was no rush.
That's right.
There's no rush. That's my kind of throwing lane,
That's right.
So once I got my device, we started a foundation. It's called Run Freely, RUNFREELY, runfreely.org. And for 4 years now, we've been helping veterans get pain-free like me.
That's awesome.
So it's not my company. I'm not making money. It's a foundation. I just always clear that part up. But Jamal Crawford is my number one supporter, so I appreciate him.
That's awesome. And so we're standing up doing the interview.
Well, I like
perfectly fine.
I like when I sit down for a long dinner. Sometimes dinners bleed out to 2 and 3. You know what I mean? Those long ones, slow service and lots of food. And I get up and I'm like Fred Sanford in my first step. I'm like, so you got to keep everything activated.
Yes,
that's the best way to live.
No, that is great. Kenny Mayne is our guest, and now you've got some prop bets coming up. We've talked a little bit of prop bets this week, but with Caesar Sportsbook, you've got some prop bets that you're looking at for the Super Bowl. Any of them stick out for you?
They let me make up one last year based on my limited college football success.
Okay,
I had one touchdown pass of 59 yards at UNLV. I threw it to that guy right there. I threw it was a 520 screen, I think it was. And Michael Morton, Johnny Morton, Chad Morton, that family, right? Kansas City connection there, ran 59 yards. So Jim Carr, our research guy, is like, we should make up a prop bet, hype that you played a little bit, and then what will happen in the Super Bowl based on that. And last year, I think it was T. Higgins, did do that, right?
Yeah.
So there was a 60-yarder. And I think the casino got hurt. I think some people took their money, but they're right back. They stayed in it. They brought in Adele and they recouped the money. And so they're putting it back out. What is the plus 3 something?
For the 60-yard touchdown, plus 320?
Yeah. And then another one, because I'm working on a story with Malcolm Butler, who ruined our lives in Seattle. We're going to do something fun to kind of, once and for all, we're going to put it behind us. That's kind of the theme of the story. And I get to meet Malcolm Butler. I was at that game. It was here in Arizona, right? I mean, it all makes sense. And we're doing a special prop. Will there be an interception in the end zone?
Oh, okay.
And I think 10-1 is not crazy.
Yeah, it's plus 1,000.
I don't think that's crazy.
Interesting.
It's funny that they always do instead of saying 10-1.
Right, yeah.
And as though, because I always say, maybe some people don't want to bet $1, but they mark it just to make it nice and neat. This means this, and people can understand what the payoff is. But I don't know. I might chase that interception in the end zone. You never know.
Do you prefer I got it at Chiefs plus 1.5, and then, now it's the Chiefs plus 3. I guess I should have waited. Or do you like maybe the pari-mutuel that whatever it goes off at the end is just what you get?
I like the first way you were describing, that everybody gets in where they get in. It's a market.
Yeah.
I've been to Ireland and England for horse racing.
Yeah.
And they have the betting rings, and that's exactly what it is. 10 minutes before the race, you're kidding me. That horse is 6-1. Let me run down there and bet with Mr. McGillicuddy or whatever his name is.
Right.
I find out later it's 2-1. Like the money came late. So, and those guys, if people have never experienced that, it's not like at a horse race track here in America where you walk up to a window and there's a teller.
Mm-hmm.
Here it's this, they literally call it a betting ring, and there's sort of a horseshoe shape. Everybody has these little stands, and each one has some kind of Irish-sounding name, and it's very funny to watch. It's a spectacle.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I did not know that.
Caesars is not doing that.
Okay.
Right now.
They are not. I can't just walk up to just a horseshoe and say, let me get Mahomes over 320.
The crazier thing is, they then walk to their car with a suitcase full of money. It's just the whole thing's absurd.
Yeah, I was always jealous and annoyed when I'm leaving the Derby and I see people standing at the IRS line.
I'll tell you, worst one. Chicago, Arlington, Breeders' Cup, long ago, 2003-ish, somewhere in there, 4-ish, whatever it was. Guy tells me from Chicago, you have to bet Volpone. Crypto clearance horse, great in the mud. It was a rainy day. And I was like, hey, man, have a great day. I didn't listen to a word he said. I had my choices, right? I lose.
Yeah.
Walked out to the rental car. We happened to park right by each other. Happened to leave at the same time. He made it through the IRS line quickly, apparently.
No.
He won so much, he had a ski coat on, and he was walking like this. He looked Yeah, those are rare and good days.
Yeah, I ignored advice for Animal Kingdom to win the Derby. We were out at a bar one night, and my buddies were there, and there was a guy that was, shirtless, sleeveless shirt, and bummed a cigarette from my buddy, and he's like, everybody in Vegas is talking about Animal Kingdom. And I'm like, nobody's saying anything about Animal Kingdom. And we go to the Derby, and I get separated from my friends, and then we meet back to leave, and they're like, yeah, did you?
Yeah.
They won like $600, $800. I'm like, no, the dude couldn't afford sleeves or a cigarette. Why would I take his advice on a horse, But
don't make him your financial advisor, although in that case.
It worked out.
Would have made sense.
It worked out. What do you think of this matchup with the Chiefs and Eagles?
I've said the same pretty much every interview, that no result will surprise me.
Yeah.
Kansas City Mahomes could go crazy, and they could run off, and, it's 31-20 or 17. Philly's defense is really good, though. I don't know. Somebody pointed out an interesting thing to me about the whole will Mahomes throw for 300 or 290, I think is the over-under. Philly's defense average giving up is much, much lower. And they've been winning games. Mm-hmm. Teams are chasing them, throwing. They're still not giving up many passing yards. I have no idea. I think it's an absolute coin flip. You might do as well betting on the coin flip as opposed to picking one of the two teams. And I know we're Kansas City here, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I've been telling people, if I have to, I've been saying Philly, but I've been saying it where I could have also said Kansas City and felt about as much conviction.
Yeah.
I just think it's a close game, and I hope it's a good game.
The consensus we're hearing just so far as we've been here, maybe even nationally, is, Philly's the more complete team, the better team, but the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know. It could be that, Philly's the more complete team 10-9. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. But it certainly feels like, Philly is so much better than the Chiefs 2 through 53. But Mahomes makes up the difference.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't think
Kansas
that's the case.
City, and they're so inventive. Coach is ridiculous with the stuff. He's going to have 5 new wrinkles we haven't even thought of. I happen to be a huge fan of the ring around the rosy thing.
Yeah,
and some people, I think it's weird when Kansas City gets criticism for doing. They're just having fun. They probably. Yeah. I have no idea for sure. I'm guessing it's Thursday, and somebody just, hey, let's do this. This will be funny. It'll crack people. And it's actually effective because if you do ring around the rosy and break out like a firework in 8 different directions, where's Mahomes? Why is he out there? Who's got the ball?
McKinnon's under center, and they've got, guys in split eye formation. And Mahomes is over there.
Kansas City does it expertly. That Dallas last play with Zeke hiking. Yeah, what was that? But, no, Kansas City's been fun to watch. I love what they've done. Like they're just a cool. Coach is awesome. They seem to really love each other and play for each other, and they do inventive things. They change the game with that inside shuttle stuff. But they, like you say, they could have a bunch of that. And now, also, wait a minute, they're up by 14. How'd that happen? But don't discount Hurts. I think Patrick's the best quarterback in football. However, Hurts really, really good. He's really measured and consistent and smart and knows what to do with the ball. He doesn't seem to take crazy chances. Yeah. I have no idea. That's a long way of saying who the heck knows who's going to win.
it's all just throwing a dart. I mean,
we're just
at
filling
this point.
time here and talking between ads.
Yes,
That's
trying to predict what's
We're on
going
an
to happen.
iPhone. If you guys are following
That's
us
right. It's on video too.
Where are they following us on that? She doesn't know where it's being disseminated, but
Sports Radio 810,
it's on the
Facebook
dark,
and
it's
Twitter
on the
and
dark web. You have to go to the
somewhere.
dark web to find us because we're
That's
revealing
right.
secrets.
That's exactly right. The circle, the ring around the rose that everybody's going is great because they put that in last year. So it was something that they had developed, and
Right.
it was like I think Travis Kelce said, like the quarterback room's like the laboratory. Like those guys
Yeah.
are in there just having fun and figuring some things out. And the actual name that we eventually figured out was Arctic Circle of Death Snow Globe Left.
I love that call.
With the reindeer personnel.
I hope that's real.
Yeah, it is.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is going way back. Washington State, I'm much older than you. Jim Sweeney was the coach at Washington State. My sister dated the quarterback, so that's why we carry. I was living in the Seattle area, but we were rooting for them because they had a play called Fake Punt Sucker. And Bernard Jackson, who passed away, played for the Denver Broncos a bit with Tom Jackson, by the way. He was a great running back in the Pac-8 back then. The play was it was a punt formation. Bernard's like left side protector. They snap it to a short guy before the punter who casually slips to his left, sticks it between Bernard's legs, who's like this, hands on his knees. A flanker on the left goes flying around as though it's a reverse. The other guy without the ball now fakes. So there's all this. It's very Kansas City-like.
Yeah.
There were like 9 confusing things. Bernard still has the ball and he doesn't move. He just stays like he's blocking but looking around like, no, somebody actually put their hand on his shoulder and shoved him aside.
Move out of the way. I'm trying to get the ball.
He takes off and runs for a touchdown.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Fake punt sucker.
And
what's your snow globe play called again?
Arctic Circle of Death.
Arctic Circle
Snow
of Death
Globe
Snow
left.
Globe Reindeer Unit.
With the reindeer personnel.
That's pretty good.
That's in there. But it's like I think that also was a testament to like Andy Reid that allows the players to come up with those
Right.
things. Like a couple of years ago, Patrick Mahomes asked, I think it might have been Eric Bieniemy, like, "Hey, can the quarterback go in motion?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah." So they started sending Mahomes in motion, which they called the Ferrari package because he had just purchased a Ferrari. So Mahomes in motion.
You're
was
supposed to make it fun.
Yeah.
It's. Why are you yelling at us?
Why
What
are you telling us to
Why are
stop
we
talking?
yelling?
We're having fun right
Everyone's
now.
having a good
They're
time.
doing like the finger wrap up thingy. So
You know what? That's just another example of the man holding us down.
That's exactly
what
right.
that
No,
is.
damn the man. You're gonna have to pry this
Can
headset
I just say
from
one
my
thing?
cold,
Kansas
dead
City
ears.
known for its barbecue, right?
Yes.
So one time, and I won't name the place because I've forgotten the place, but I've been there. I've been to the Negro Baseball Museum,
Yes.
the Hall of Fame. Had some good times, shot some stories there. But they sent us to your worst barbecue place. I heralded as the greatest barbecue, right? One of the best places in America. And they sent us to the wrong one. We're like,
Oh, no.
what?
You didn't like it?
I want to go back because I want
Yeah.
the city to redeem
We'll
itself.
take-
Give me the good place.
Oh, we'll take you around. Yeah, you'll love that. There's a lot to choose from. The good places, that's for sure. Kenny, thank you so much for the time. I
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate it. Enjoyed it. And runfreely.org.
Runfreely.org and Circle of Death Reindeer Formation.
Caesars Sportsbook. There is a prop. Will the Chiefs use reindeer personnel?
Is that no way?
I don't know. I wish. I wish there was. I should come up with that.
Will the Chiefs do something so stupid that everybody's laughing yet appreciating it?
While also players saying it's not good sportsmanship and they're upset about it.
That was not true. I don't know.
I agree.
There's no unsportsman. That's not right.
Let's go have fun.
Play the game. Have some fun. I used to sometimes in high school. We're still talking, guys. In high school, if we're like at the half-yard line, I would just say, Joe Namath is sneaking it in. And we'd walk just to be stupid, right? You're supposed to loosen people up.
Yeah.
Make them want to play. Make them want to have fun.
Yeah.
We're going to commercial with the best Kansas City barbecue available.
There we go, Kenny Mayne. Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. Drops the headset. Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate that. Kenny Mayne joining us here as we're hanging out on Radio Row on Sports Radio 810 at WHB. Our coverage is presented by Rally House. Rally House, your home for officially licensed NFL gear. Your city, your house. Rally House. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More's on next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So sweaty, mom spaghetti or whatever the line is.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, hanging out right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We are live in Phoenix. Radio Row, our coverage continues, and it is presented by Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks, America's favorite sport, crowns a champ on February 12th. Show up early, cash out quarterly. The first 100 guests qualify for the Squares board. Watch the game at Twin Peaks. Thank you to Kenny Mayne. Texas, Jason, did you make Kenny Mayne mad? Did you check him off? From what? Was he mad? Was he upset?
I didn't think he sounded upset. It sounded like there might have been people around you getting upset about how long Kenny Mayne was with us, but Kenny was looking at him and giving him the one finger salute because they were like, "Hey, wrap it up." They were doing the whole finger waving thing in a circle, like, "Yeah, we got to go." And Kenny just looked at me and was like, they're telling us to go, whatever." And so
I think he just has a very distinct style of humor, which I appreciate.
Totally. It's very dry. And even as he's saying something that is funny, he doesn't even smile. Doesn't even let you know that he may think it's funny, even though he does. So yes, and the person that's taking him around was getting quite annoyed, and I think he really enjoyed the fact that that's whatever they're called, like the handler. His handler was like, "Come on, we got to go." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." Now almost like now I almost feel like it's a mission to talk just for 2 or 3 more minutes, just for S's and G's, just for the principle of the whole thing.
That explains a lot, actually.
That's right.
Beards, write this down. Jason takes going an extra 3 or 4 minutes on air as a personal challenge when he is challenged.
That's exactly right.
Beard, start telling him to not break.
Yes.
See what happens.
Beard says break, and I look at him and go, okay. It's going to be like that?
Oh, you don't think I could talk for 15 more minutes?
You think I need to be told when to break?
Guys, are we doing a bit here? Or is this like just real stuff we're doing now?
This is reality. We're just giving you the peek behind the curtain.
I was waiting for Mick to show up.
That's all it is. Another text says, did you applaud the Merriman Eli Apple dig? I actually wanted to when he said that, because he was like, well, no offense to Eli Apple, and I wanted to be like, no, plenty of offense. You can you don't have to qualify anything here with taking shots at Eli Apple, because every other team does take shots right out. So he said, look, this Eagles defense, man, they don't have an Eli Apple. I mean, no offense to him. Like, no offense. That's the point. They've got 2 cornerbacks that are playing at a pretty damn high level. Slay and Bradbury.
Sorry, Jason. I got some breaking news for you. Right now, Roger Goodell is having a press conference out there in Arizona, and the part I wanted to draw your attention to is that not only is he not wearing a tie, the top button isn't buttoned, and that's one thing. But Roger Goodell has the top 2 buttons unbuttoned in his press conference right now. This is even more relaxed than he looked doing the draft from his basement during COVID.
Why is he doing that? This is an actual press conference that he's doing, and he's...
Yeah, Donna Kelsey asked a question, asked if he'd be on New Heights. It sounds like that might happen, so that should be good. Yeah. But it looks like a moderated sort of presser that could... I know Matt Derrick's out there. I imagine Adam Teicher might be as well, but I saw Matt tweet about it. That's how I knew about the New Heights element of it. But
I see that now. I see that with not 1 but 2 and no tie.
At one point, that it just the plumage there fully opened up in a way that I just don't think I've ever seen from Roger Goodell.
Interesting, yes. How about also, when we talked to Clark Hunt yesterday, asked him about neutral site championship games, and he said, well, no, I don't know what the future of that is going to be, and whether that's something that it's not something we've really talked about if that's going to be in the future. But he said his dad was a proponent. And he said Lamar Hunt was a proponent of neutral site championship games. And of course, then Clark looked at me and winked and said, we don't agree on everything. My dad and I didn't agree on everything. I don't think Clark Hunt is a proponent of neutral site championship games, especially hosting 5 in a row. Now, if the Chiefs never, ever hosted one, and they were always on the road like other AFC teams are, I bet AFC teams are in favor of a neutral site championship game because they're tired of it being the Arrowhead Invitational. Have it be somewhere else. This is ridiculous. All right, we can't just keep always going to Arrowhead. Well, you know what? Win more games. Figure it out. But yeah, I don't know if he's talking about that. I did see the quote where he was asked about concussions being up this year, and said that it's they took a more conservative definition of concussions. I think Tua would beg to disagree with that.
A less conservative definition, a broader.
So
definition.
Concussion went up because we had a broader more conservative definition.
Yeah.
He said more evaluations equals more concussions. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that is absolutely true. But again, I think people would follow up with, didn't Tua have one that went back on the field? So, there's that. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We didn't really get into much college basketball with K-State winning last night and Mizzou winning last night and Noel and Johnson not exactly having their best nights, but still finding a way to win by damn near 20 against TCU and pulling away late. And a great performance from K-State. And, look, you get Jerome Tang to go up in the crowd again. And Wabash Cannonball. So that's all good. Oh!
Hey, breaking news from Adam Schefter. Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy remains a prime candidate for the offensive coordinator jobs with the Washington Commanders and Baltimore Ravens, per sources.
So is this the year that he just simply says, I'm taking a offensive coordinator job? I've got to separate myself from Andy Reid to be able to be viewed as a legit candidate to be a head coach, that I am not just simply the guy who's communicating the play to Patrick Mahomes that's been told to me by Andy Reid, that it is my offense. I mean, this is a change in approach for Eric Bieniemy, because have we heard even a discussion or maybe even even a thought, right, about, well, no, I'll just go be an offensive coordinator somewhere for a different team, and not just simply go from Chiefs offensive coordinator to head coach in the NFL, that I then have to prove myself as an offensive coordinator separate from Andy Reid, even though Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy, have done that before, but now I've got to prove myself without the umbrella of Andy Reid. I don't know if he ever considered that before, maybe the last couple of years, that it's time probably to do it. And if he's still a prime candidate for that, which means he's interested, which, means there's probably a decent chance that after this, Super Bowl, that the Chiefs may have a new offensive coordinator in Matt Nagy, unless he gets the Tennessee Titans head coaching job. Or, excuse me, the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator job, which was talked about, but he's no longer the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator candidate, because I just remember yesterday they hired from within. Their quarterback's coach is now their OC. But they were talking to Matt Nagy about maybe being their offensive coordinator. So then Nagy would slide up and be the OC for the Chiefs. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think last year we got a little bit of this conversation kind of started, and then even before that it was, well, could Eric Bieniemy go to college and do it there first, which is also silly. I don't think Houston's made an OC decision yet, with DeMeco Ryans being there now. Right. Again, he's not named in Schefter's tweet. Schefter goes Washington and Baltimore there. And look, man, here's the thing. Baseline, it's really silly this is a conversation that we're even having, because Matt Nagy didn't need to do this. Doug Peterson didn't need to do this. Eric Bieniemy is doing this, or potentially in the process of doing this. That right there is the end of the conversation in terms of, is this outrageous? But if you are going to go ahead and continue down this path, you could do a whole lot worse than going to work with for John Harbaugh and with Lamar Jackson. That would be... It would be a situation that doesn't feel like eating a big pile of bleep because you didn't get a head coaching job when you should have. That would at least feel like a borderline lateral move when you're leaving Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. That's at least a good potential landing spot.
Part of it could be also what's the situation with Lamar Jackson? Is there an issue there with he in Baltimore? Is Eric Bieniemy going to show up to Baltimore and say, well, now you've got to revamp the entire offense because, Lamar is going somewhere else, or we're going to trade him, because there's a lot of predictions that Lamar Jackson ain't going to be in Baltimore next year, that franchise tag him and trade him. And if that's the case, I think Eric Bieniemy would have to be given some sort of a guarantee or, some information that, hey, Lamar Jackson's going to be the quarterback, unless he wants to take on the challenge and say, no, okay, now I can institute my offense, new quarterback, whatever it might be. But that would take some time to adjust from the way they have built their offense to then say, we're going either, quote unquote, more traditional, or we're going to pass the ball a little bit more. Whereas in Washington, can you prove to be a good offense without a quarterback? Because they've got some playmakers there. I mean, they've got McLaurin, they've got Dotson, they've got Samuel, they've got some running backs. So they've got some playmakers there. Can Eric Bieniemy turn that into a really good offense with a lesser-than quarterback to show that, even his offense with some playmakers, and he's not doing it with Patrick Mahomes. Like if he takes over Baltimore, you're taking over an offense with a quarterback that already won an MVP. You stay with Kansas City, you're with Patrick Mahomes, and he won an MVP. Okay. Going to Washington, you're doing it with Carson Wentz and who was the
Sam Howell? Ron Rivera today said Sam Howell is
Sam
currently
Howell.
the starter, like in the offseason. They're not going to. They won't sign a veteran backup, not at a premium. That is.
Yeah. So
they're bringing a veteran to compete. Is what he said.
Non-first round draft pick quarterback, and playmakers around him. Can he turn that into a good offense and show that it wasn't just Andy Reid calling plays? And Andy Reid didn't just call the good plays, and Eric Bieniemy called the bad plays. It's his offense.
It's just dumb because that's not ever how this works. Like Mike Kafka was getting hype before he went to the Giants in a promotion that he got, and now it seems like he's the odds-on favorite in Arizona. Also worth noting, Nikki Jabvala tweeted this out on Monday, a quote from Eric Bieniemy. I think this was in the Monday night sort of scrum and all that, saying, I have not taken any interviews for any offensive coordinator positions. I've only taken one interview for a head coaching position. Right now I've interviewed with the Indianapolis Colts. I thought it went great. We'll see where that goes. Now as far as the offensive coordinator stuff, right now I'm focused on where my feet are, and right now I'm focused on helping us win this game this weekend. So the last part there is certainly, that's some Bieniemy-isms, but he hasn't interviewed for these jobs at this point, which, again, makes a lot of sense because there's a Super Bowl still happening. But that Colts job is still up there. It's open, but they reportedly have not even been informing any of their, dozen candidates that they are no longer candidates as they go on to take other jobs. So that organization's kind of a cluster. But with that being said, Bieniemy's not actually interviewed for these yet, according to sources, Eric Bieniemy.
Right. He hasn't interviewed for them, yet somehow he's still at the top of the list for an offensive coordinator for these. So he may not be interviewing for them, but behind the scenes, there's a clear interest, or there wouldn't be the reports out there. Eric Bieniemy is clearly interested, whether he's interviewed for them or not. There's a clear interest there, or his agent wouldn't even let it get out. Mick Schaefer's hanging out with us now.
I agree. Whatever you guys said, I agree with everything. It could be the whole, college deal of, no, I haven't talked to Arizona State, but my agent has talked to their headhunter, right, and conveyed all of my thoughts.
And then you come out and you say, I'm actually not interested in that job. I've got a job. Once you find out you're no longer in the running of that job, and you're like, I'm actually taking my name out of the running for that. I've got a job, and I know my name was up there, but I never interviewed for him, and I just want to set the record straight that I am not interested in that job at all.
Every job search always lands on the one person they want.
That's exactly right. They've always wanted that one guy.
Can I help you guys make one search in your life a little bit easier since Mick's here now?
Yes, please.
Here's the thing,
Let's do
guys. You need a little spot to stop through, maybe on a little Super Bowl Monday. You want to go ahead and make sure you've got the proper base layer before you have to go on with the rest of your week, either with a parade or maybe some sadness. Mick Schaefer's brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. Home of the 2-story biscuit sandwiches from Denver Biscuit Company all morning, New York-style hand-tossed pizza all afternoon and evening from Fat Sully's, and 20 beers on tap all the time. You can experience it today. Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon at 42nd in Pennsylvania in Westport.
There you go. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll hang out with Mick Schaefer and see what he's been up to these last couple of days. There has been so much media availability. There's way too much to consume. It is information and soundbite overload over the last few days, and we still have 3 interviews from opening night on Monday that we haven't played yet that I would like to at some point, because Sky Moore was entertaining and Justin Watson / Forrest Gump was entertaining because he found out, like everybody else, that his nickname was Forrest Gump. That was great talking to him. He's like, I didn't know my nickname was Forrest Gump.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I know, but with the Kelsey podcast, apparently, they call him Forrest Gump. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and talk with Mick Schaefer, things that are going on around the city, and some other things with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com in the 810 mobile app. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Beards. We are presented by Blue Note Bourbon, ranked among the very best whiskeys worthy of your attention by Whiskey Advocate. Pick up some Blue Note Bourbon for the big game and all your occasions. Mick Schaefer hanging out with us here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mick, what's up, man?
How's it going?
It is going just fine.
A lot's up, Jason.
Is it?
A lot is up.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
I have been hanging out here in this seat since about 6:45 Mountain Time. And you have been sitting right over there just waiting for your turn to be on the air the whole time as well. But, no, you've been at the Phoenix Open. I'm jealous now.
Honestly, and I've been there for 4 hours today. It was a Pro-Am day. Still one of the coolest things I've ever covered. I wanted to stay, man. I almost thought about just, like, leaving it all behind and just walking away, shedding our tripod, our camera, or passes, and go getting one of those green cups and filling it up with beer and just sitting there and just debating like where I am in life, and maybe I just make some decisions now and just start over, start anew.
Which is always good to do that with something in your hand to make those life decisions. It's like, you know what, Mick, we need you to – no, you don't. No, I'm done.
No, we're
I'm
good.
done.
You don't need anything, right?
I'm on the 16th. Sorry. Unless you want to come here and do that. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm watching golf right now. That's what I'm doing. So what were you doing while you were just hanging out or working? Or what are you doing?
It's cool. We got up at about 6:30, 6:45, headed out there. I've never covered a PGA event before. We covered the Korn Ferry stuff in Kansas City. I've been to one as a fan, but as a kid, it was a long time ago. And so I didn't know what to expect. And so we got there early. What to expect is nobody knows where the media center is, okay? It's just like a mile walk to get there. We weave our way around, and we get in, and we finally get credentials, and we ask, like, okay, can we shoot the golfers? Absolutely, you can shoot. Can we get inside the ropes? Yeah, here it says right here you can get inside the ropes, and we can follow them. Can we go to the 16th? Absolutely. Everything. Every answer is yes.
Yeah.
We're used to covering the NFL where every answer is no. And so I had texted with Robert Streb, who is a Lake Quivira resident and buddy of Nick Lecky's.
Yeah.
He's a former K-State golfer,
Wildcat.
PGA guy, won a couple times on tour. And so I did a one-on-one with him, and I was satisfied. I'm like, great, we got a PGA guy. Met him by the practice green, did a one-on-one. And I texted with Gary Woodland, who's a good buddy of a couple of friends of mine, one of them being Greg Gurley. And so I talked with Gary before, and then I saw his standard bearer guy walk by with Woodland and so-and-so.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, hey, when's Gary tee off? This is Pro-Am Day. And he's like, it's 9:20. I look, it's 9:10. I'm like, okay, we're just going to follow you. So we followed him up there, and I'm standing kind of with the crowd and everything, and I realized, oh, I can get inside the ropes. So I slide under the ropes, got our camera in there, and I tell our camera guy, I'm like, okay, because he's shooting pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can be wherever you want for Gary, okay? Once the amps come up, get back outside the ropes, okay? We're not gonna get killed today. And so Gary gets out the first tee. I think he had 3-wood and just smokes one. I'm sure it was roughly 280, something like that.
I'm sure it was down the middle. I don't know.
It was down the middle. It was in the fairway. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go talk to him, see if if he has time. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's such a nice guy. I was like, anytime during this round, this 4.5-hour round, that you have to talk with me, I'll just be quick. He's like, yeah, we can do it now. I'm like, okay.
Just teed off.
And I had noticed he was talking a lot with one of his amateur partners, who's a tall guy, skinny, had a hoodie on. It was kind of odd. He was just kind of covering his face. And so I'm talking with Gary one-on-one, and we're whisper interview, right? It's quiet.
That's right, yes. Everybody's teeing off.
But first of all, he's great. He was wearing his red today. He's got some like sort of Chiefs cleats he's wearing.
Nice, good for him.
And then he's going to have some sort of red on every day of the tournament. And look, the goal for him is to miss a big chunk of the Super Bowl, because that means he'd be in contention on Sunday in one of those final groups. And so it's like, yeah, we're playing today. I'm in the Pro-Am. Got Michael Phelps there. I'm like, excuse me, what? Yeah, Michael Phelps right there, right behind us. There's the guy in the hoodie.
You mean the weirdo in the
was
hoodie?
the greatest Olympian in the history of mankind.
Is he
sculling one off the tee?
Is he the am?
He is. Oh yeah, he's the am.
Well, it's the Olympics; they have to be amateur.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Can't
old,
make any money.
Old school, can't do that. But so the pro am is Woodland and Michael Phelps.
He's literally 10 yards behind me as we're whisper interviewing with Gary Woodland. And at that point, I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever done. Yeah. And so they walk off, and I get my one last question to Gary, and he's so cool. And we just kind of walk with the group down the middle of the fairway. I'm not sure we're supposed to be that close to him and everything, but there we are, just getting shots and everything. I took some social video and all that, and awesome. We followed them for a couple holes, and then we went to the 16th hole, and that was just it's an experience.
Yeah, I would love to experience it one time at the 16th hole. I was trying to explain the Phoenix Open to somebody, and they were like, well, my boyfriend said that he had been once, and but he said like it was all rowdy and they were cheering and everything, and she was like, so no, you didn't go to a golf tournament, right? Because the golf tournament's not going to allow you to do that, okay? And I'm like, no.
This one does.
This one does. No, he's telling the truth. No, you get pretty rowdy. This is encouraged. It's not only allowed; it's encouraged that you're going to get rowdy at the 16th.
So the adjective that almost everybody to a man has used to describe to me, fans and some of the golfers I talked to out there today, to describe this was S show. Welcome to the S show. But you know what? It's funny. Woodland's won it before. He won it in 2018. Always plays well here. And he talked about it. He's like, I'm used to basketball crowds, man, because he played, right? He played at Washburn. He's always at those KU games. He's the biggest KU fan around. He's like, I feed off that. I love that, as opposed to a lot of golfers who just like put up with the 16th hole. But it's not just the 16th. We walked up to the 18th, and of course, just these huge grandstands. We go on a walkabout looking for 16. I'm like, well, that's got to be it. Stadium seating all around the hole. No, that's 17 that has a lot. And then we turn a couple more corners, and you look up, and it's this colossus, this huge like arena, right, where gladiators fought. And it's all enclosed, right? It is, and it's almost like, it covers more space than a football stadium, right? Because, the hole is, I don't know how long it's playing today, 150 at least. Yeah. 150 yards, right? Football field's on 100 yards.
120.
120, yes. And then, but not much outside on the sideline, so it encapsulates more space than a football stadium, and it's all the way around. And there's GA seating, there's box seating, there's VIP. It was a cool deal. I had a couple buddies that were there. We're in their Chiefs gear. We talked to them on camera. We have them on a story tonight, and so it was hard to leave. You're the only you right there.
Yes.
This show, the only reason I came.
How about that, huh? We have accomplished something. We have taken Mick Schaefer away from his responsibilities as the sports director of KSHP 41. We are on our way to helping him keep his job.
Yes,
because he was going to stay there and quit his job. We're thinking about you and your family.
Thought about it. I'm thinking about it right now.
Thinking about you and your family. The S show is interesting because that's what it feels like this week in Phoenix is, because the Super Bowl and the Waste Management is going on the same exact week. So yes, it feels like it's going to be an S show all week. And speaking of that, Greg Gurley's heading down.
He's been texting me.
He's going to the golf tournament.
Yes,
is he going to stay for the weekend? Like he stay for the weekend and go to the game?
He did say, hey, he can get me in tomorrow in some sort of behind the scenes, backstage status.
Shocker, he's got that ability to be able to.
Yeah, I might actually put up with him for a day if that's the case, or a few hours.
Yes,
whatever that would be.
This is that's the perfect golf tournament for him. The Phoenix Open is the perfect.
Yeah, and him and Gary are close. And I think he probably knows a few of those guys. But it is, and one of the guys we talked to, and he said it perfectly. He's like, this matches my personality. This tournament, this is what I am all about. He goes, I feel seen here. I have every decision I've made in life in the last 45 or 6 years has been to this point right here. And he talked about it, and it only got better with the Chiefs making it here. Because awesome. they had planned this trip months in advance, and then all season long they're kind of watching the Chiefs, and then how it's getting there, and you get to the AFC Championship game, so they're staying all the way through the weekend, and
are they going to go to the game?
They're going to try to find their way to it. And look, this is in air quotes here. The ticket prices are going to get cheaper, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe by Saturday night you can get in for $1,000 or $2,000. I don't know. And people have talked about, like, if you wait like 5 minutes in the first quarter, there's going to be some.
Maybe
it's $900, right?
Yeah, gotta sell
or
them.
500, something like that. And so just to get in and say you've been there and all that, and so it's everybody's like, oh, it's so awesome being down there. Like, yeah, I don't get to enjoy much. Those guys are doing, that's awesome, getting to be down here. They're golfing tomorrow, then they're going back on Friday to the waste management, the WM, they call it the WM.
The WM Phoenix Open. And I think probably tomorrow really is when fans of the Super Bowl teams will start really showing up. Because I haven't seen many. I've seen a few, but I haven't seen many. The interesting thing about being down in Miami was the amount of Chiefs fans we saw that weren't going to the game.
Yeah.
That just said, well, we wanted to be down here just to experience. We may try to get into the game on Sunday, but we just want to be down here.
My brother's coming down again. He ain't getting anywhere close to the game. but we got a couple concerts he's going to go to.
Absolutely.
That's why I tell people, like, you can afford the experience, like literally the NFL experience, right? It's $20 to get in. You can walk around. There's so many different citywide social events, right, where they're featuring people and dignitaries and doing cool things, and then you have concerts every night at some spot, some corner of the city, and then a lot of parties that you could get
find a way to
get
into.
And then so the actual game is such a small part of the Super Bowl.
It's crazy. So I'm curious how many Chiefs fans will be heading here just to simply enjoy the few days before the actual game is played.
We met two Chiefs fans, two ladies on our flight. And they were coming out Saturday. I'm like, wow, it's pretty early. They're like, yeah, we're here for the week. We're not planning on going to the game. Maybe we'll fall into tickets. Sure enough, opening night on the stage, we look down there. They have like 10 Philly fans and 10 Kansas City fans. They're giving away tickets at opening night. They whittle them down. Those two ladies are on the stage. Like, they made a way. They give it a shot, and they didn't win. But they got close, right? And so they are hustling. They're trying.
Okay, so they're getting close.
They're getting close.
They were absolutely close to being able to go to the Super Bowl. Although I do wonder how much of that was planned for you guys are going to the Super Bowl, right, on opening night. Because it felt like it was a little like the people that won.
The fans? Okay, I don't know how they got those fans down there.
I don't either, because you would also have to know that they're here and they're not going to the game already. So, like, just picking random people out, no, you got tickets? I'd be like, no, I don't have tickets. I'll win them. Cool. Now I'm selling mine. Well, I don't have tickets to the game.
I figured almost 100% of people down here would take free tickets.
Yeah, because then I'll sell mine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take the free. No, I don't have tickets. Please, let me win those free ones. That would be great. Mick Schaefer's here, but he's also an atomic cowboy at heart.
He really is. Brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon, Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Man vs. Food. They've been all those places. They haven't yet been in Mick Schaefer's belly. We're going to fix that very, very soon. You can fix it for yourself right now. 42nd in Pennsylvania in Westport.
Very good. Mick, you going to be around on Friday?
Yeah,
if not,
I don't know if I'm ever leaving this place, it feels like.
Are you going to be able to leave the WM on Friday?
I'm not going. Well, we have kind of an open day Friday. I might have to.
Hey,
but
man,
yeah, we'll be here.
Look, if you've got that going on, feel free to say, you know what, Jason, I'm going to have to ditch. I understand totally. Or if you want to come and host the show, and I'll go do that.
I'll come back. I'll just be really drunk. It'll be fine.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. You'd fit right in with half the people here at Radio Row. All right, that'll do it for us. The programs. Ren Petro is up next. We will talk to you tomorrow as our coverage continues from Radio Row in Phoenix. Have a good day.